Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 552. My name is Kyle.
My name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. How's it going, Zach?
It's going well. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
It's just us today.
Yeah, no James.
Yep.
And we also
he's gallivanting.
He just told us he couldn't make it this week. He didn't say why or where. It was kind of last minute.
What's up with that?
I don't know. We also share something else in common this weekend too.
Okay.
No wives.
Where's your wife?
My wife is currently on the airplane back to Madison, but she was in New York City. Where's your wife?
She's in Maine.
She's in Maine.
Yeah.
For good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or eventually she's coming back?
She's coming back.
Okay, good.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
We just got two dads bacheloring it up this week.
Yeah. I've just been spending it doing nothing but work.
Yeah, and my son's here, so I've been keeping him busy.
Okay.
So,
nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Well, do you have a check-in today, or do you want to just jump right in?
I don't have a check-in. Do you have a check-in? No. Okay. Then I think we should jump right in because this might be another long episode.
Yeah, good. It always has the potential, right?
Right. We haven't done this in a while, but we're gonna do another. I guess this is the third time now, so we can call it a theme.
It's a series.
A series. That's a better word. Yes, another series in the Zach and Kyle come to consensus about the best something of a decade.
Yes, this is the cooperative consensus pick.
Yes.
That we figure out live on air. Normally, we come to the show with our own individual top 10 lists, but instead, this show we're going to do it together and come up with our corporate list.
Corporate list?
Yeah,
or cooperative list?
Both.
Okay. So
this should be fun.
Zach, what are we deciding on this week for the best of each decade?
This week, we're doing the best director of each decade.
Yes, we are.
The best director. I do want to talk a little bit about what that means.
Okay.
But we're going to start at the 20s and go all the way through to the 1920s or the 2020s.
2010s is as far as my research went.
Okay. All right. A little early for the 2020s, huh?
We're only a couple years in, and I'm pretty sure in our other consensus lists we stopped in the 2010s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense too. So what do we mean by best director of the decade?
That's a great question. I think that's why we're here to figure out.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a couple things we should consider as we pick the best director for each decade. I mean, number one is quality of body of work for that decade.
Yeah, and only that decade.
Yes, yeah. We're not looking at their entire. That's not best director of all time. Best director of the decade. So yeah, during that decade, from the whatever ends in 0 to whatever ends in 9 of that decade, what they've done. Yeah. That's what we're judging.
I think for the most part, I want to not consider what's outside of their decade.
I completely agree. This is one decade at a time.
For sure. I also think there's a sense where like some directors kind of had the zeitgeist of a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely certain directors strongly associated with certain decades.
Yeah. Now, if Joe Blow has made one movie that everyone associates with the 70s, but that's it, and then another director made like 40 amazing films in the 70s, but they don't feel 70s, I still want to give it to the director who did the 40 amazing films.
Yeah, I definitely think there is some quantity bias to this list.
Quantity and quality.
Yeah.
Over quintessence.
Over 5 what? 5 essences?
Is it quintessence? Is that the right word?
Like quintessential?
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say quintessentialness.
Fine. if you don't want to say quintessence. And then
Again, what are the 5 essences? I'm confused.
all right, are you a Latin guy apparently?
Apparently I am.
Yeah, apparently you are. Okay, and is there anything else that we really need to consider before jumping into this?
There is a third category, but I'm not going to tell you what it is until we get into it.
Okay, well, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise. It's not a huge surprise, but
one thing that is going to be important to me is not just what are the quality of these films that the director has directed, but I'm really going to require that it has a directorial influence on it. So I want to feel like the director was working hard at this, not just he was attached to something that was very successful.
So, like, you can say this is a so-and-so movie, not this is a movie that's so-and-so directed.
Yes. I also want to say, like, some movies, what makes them good is the acting or the cinematography or the writing, not necessarily the directing. If I sense that's the case, I'm not going to be chasing after those directors.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like, we're going to start in the 20s. And immediately we're going to be hit with Buster Keaton, Charles Chaplin. And I'm actually not. Yeah, I like to go formal for these. I'm not going to be.
He prefers Bartholomew, whatever. Steve Keaton, yes.
Bartholomew. I'm not going to be chasing after them for this list because I think the success of their films have much more to do with their presence and their physical comedy than like the actual directing of it.
Okay, well, we may already be at an impasse, and we haven't even started this list
an
yet.
impasse, not just a difference, an impasse.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of 522.
552.
You know what? It can be whatever episode I want it to be.
Okay, we're at an impasse.
Yeah, it's over. I think before we get into it, though, we do have some housekeeping. Normally, this is what happens when James isn't here. We lose our form.
Yes. James is the scaffolding of the podcast. Yeah.
So there is a video version of the podcast.
Yes, it's on YouTube. If you search Cinereelists on YouTube, you're going to find it.
We're the only Cinereelists out there.
Yeah, we are.
R-double-E with an S on the end.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Like us on all your favorite podcast services, especially Apple. That's probably the one that matters the most.
That's the one that I want people to like and to rate us 5 stars and review us so that we can become Rotten Tomatoes reviewers. That's my goal.
We have a ways to go on that.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Oh, good. I'm glad you have faith. And send us an email, heyguys@cinereelists.com. I am positive there'll be people listening to this episode who will not agree with our picks. And I want to hear your picks, and I want to hear you tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah. I don't even know what we're going to decide yet, but I'm excited to read those emails.
Me too.
Yes. And let's pick at least 10 that just make James really mad. Let's make that another category. Like, what will James be most upset by us picking?
Has James heard of this person?
Until we get to the 70s, no.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
All right, so
and he's okay with that.
The James factor we have to bring into this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the housekeeping.
All right. Good.
You ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. 1920s. We're going to start off the bat here. I'm going to kind of give you some nominees I have, and then you can definitely jump in. If you think of anyone else you want to add, please do so. And we'll kind of work down from that list. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
For sure.
So 1920s, I'm not going to go obvious at first. I'm going to go for a obvious movie pick, but maybe not a director who's totally associated with the decade, and that's Fritz Lang, who did Metropolis in the 1920s.
Yes.
Now, he did lots of other movies in other decades, but I do feel like Metropolis is a quintessential 1920s silent movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Metropolis gets there. He also did Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler, which is very well received. But I think M was 30s.
M was 30s, and he was doing things in the 40s also.
Yeah.
So
for me, one or two major hits is not enough to give you the trophy.
all right, well, let me throw another one at you then.
Okay.
How about F.W. Murnau, who did Nosferatu, Sunrise, and Faust? I've not seen Faust, but I know Faust is a 1920s movie.
I have seen Faust.
Okay.
I've also seen Sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen Nosferatu, and
here.
I've seen The Last Laugh.
Oh, okay.
And I actually think I want to give it to him right away.
All right.
I think he's going to be really tough to beat, honestly.
Well, okay, then I'm not gonna make a huge case for Charlie Chaplin this decade then, because I don't think Charlie Chaplin could beat Murnau. He's got The Kid, Gold Rush, The Circus. I would not say 20s is maybe not his strongest decade yet.
I associate him more with the 30s when he's doing like City Lights and Modern Times.
Exactly.
I do like all of those movies you listed.
Yeah.
But again, like I said at the beginning, I don't think of these as huge directorial wins. I think of them as like his character.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay. So Charlie Chaplin not gonna beat Murnau. Right now, Murnau's our number one.
Okay.
One more. It's the big one. Buster
Buster?
Keaton. Yep.
Yeah.
The General, Sherlock Jr., Steamboat Bill Jr., plays children a lot apparently. 1 Week, Our Hospitality, and The Navigator, to name a few.
Yes, that is true. And those are all very good. Movies I absolutely love. I've got some 5-star movies in there actually.
Yeah.
So is this your front runner?
I would say he's my front runner over Murnau, though I think they're close. Why he's my front runner, and I'm gonna kind of take your criteria into consideration. Yes, he is the star of his movies, and yes, like this is 1920s cinema, so he's not doing a ton with the camera because the camera is more focused on what is he doing. Like he's moving within that field, where Murnau is definitely doing more with the camera work, with cinematography. I'll give you that. However, I see Keaton as being the director, as someone who's like assembling this, I don't know, this contraption that is a movie where there's all these moving parts, and he's kind of the guy who's keeping all those moving parts working in harmony and capturing it on film. So, right, maybe artistically he's not as strong as Murnau, but if you look at the director as someone who is kind of overseeing the entire project, I think he is one of the best ever directors, not just of this decade.
Yeah, I mean, Buster Keaton is a genius, I think. I gave The General 5 stars. I gave The Navigator 4.5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Our Hospitality. I liked Sherlock Jr. Those are the only 4 that I've seen. Or no, I've seen Steamboat Bill Jr. That one's awesome.
Yep.
Cameraman's awesome. Okay, I've seen all of these. Now, I don't think he's credited as the director for The Cameraman and Steamboat Bill Jr.
He is not for The Cameraman. I thought he was for Steamboat Bill Jr., but I may have put that down incorrectly.
According to IMDb, it's Charles Reisner.
I was using Letterboxd, so whatever, but I could be wrong too. I was not using IMDb. I'm curious to know what Letterboxd says for it. Okay,
sure.
Well, here is the X factor that I was going to mention before, the unknown. We did choose the best movie of every decade the first time we did this.
Yeah.
And do you know what movie we chose for 1920s?
Was it The General?
It was The General.
Sure.
So I don't know if that factors in at all. If we, if the best, who directed the best movie that we decided for that decade.
Let me make a case for Myrna. Okay.
Go for it. Okay.
Because absolutely, I love Buster Keaton's films. Right. Okay. I think a huge strength of those films are Buster Keaton as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's really hard to separate that out from him as director. Whereas with Myrna's films, his directorial imprint, I think, is all over those films. And I want to point out one very important caveat is that if you look at all of Buster Keaton's films, they're all co-directed.
Oh.
He is not the sole director on these films. So, for instance, The General co-directed. And that's my favorite film. That's the film of the year or of the decade for us, right? But it's co-directed, and obviously because there's a lot going on. It was a different system back then. Whereas Myrna, all of his films, of note, I didn't check every single one, but all the films that we mentioned, from Nosferatu all the way to Sunrise, he's the sole director. On top of that, Sunrise, I believe, won the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Yep.
And all of these films, like Faust, is incredible. Like as far as the visuals go, Last Laugh is a movie that's 100 years old, and I was 100% invested the whole time. And you know what I mean? And to be able to like cross over like that, and then having a completely different genre with Nosferatu. When we talk about impact, like how much impact has Nosferatu had on the history of film?
Yeah. I was just thinking, if you showed someone who is not familiar with 1920 cinema at all, you show them a scene from Nosferatu and a scene from The General and ask them, which one of these looks more familiar to you? Which one do you think you've seen something from? They're probably going to go Nosferatu over The General.
Yeah.
Just because of that iconic vampire.
Exactly. And so for those reasons, that's why I still feel pretty strongly about Myrna. I'm not going to get mad if we pick Buster Keaton, obviously. But yeah, I do think the directorial influence for Myrna is huge.
Let's do it. Let's go Myrna. I think you've made a compelling argument.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
right.
I've been swayed. I went into this with Keaton in mind, but you have swayed me.
Well, see, that's the beauty of these collaborations, right? Is we are coming at this with an open mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually want to pick Myrna for every decade. So I'm going to pull for him all the way into the 2010s.
Okay. Well, then I think we're done here. So thank you for listening to this episode 552.
This should be a drinking game every time you threaten
to end the game.
The show. Yeah.
I'm going to find every moment I can to wrap up this show prematurely.
I love it.
All right. 1920s, FW, Myrno or Myrna. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I've always heard Myrna, but I'm open to, twaddle Ejiofor.
Yeah, we can twaddle this. No problem. All right. 1930s. We're going to start with we're going to throw Fritz Lang back in there again. He did M in the 1930s.
Great movie.
Great movie. Charlie Chaplin, as you mentioned before, Modern Times and City Lights. Frank Capra, It Happened One Night. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You Can't Take It With You. Howard Hawks, Bringing Up Baby and Scarface. And then the last one, Michael Curtiz, Adventures of Robin Hood, Angels with Dirty Faces, Captain Blood. These are kind of the 5 that I gravitated towards.
Wow, that is a strong 5. Can we go through them one by one and kind of dig in a little bit more?
Yeah, let's start with Fritz Lang again, returning from the 20s. His only major movie is M, but that is a standout movie of the 30s.
It is, but for director of the decade, and it's right at the beginning of the decade, and then he's not doing anything. I mean, Come on.
Yep. Okay.
Come on, man.
We can cut him. Big one here, Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times and City Lights.
Yeah, that is a big one. I think we have to seriously consider Chaplin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I want to throw Frank Capra in there. It Happened One Night, early rom-com before that was even a genre. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a classic Jimmy Stewart movie. And then I haven't seen it, but You Can't Take It With You is also another well-known movie.
Yeah. No, those are great. Those are awesome, actually. Okay. Capra.
Yep, Capra. We Howard Hawks, Bringing Up Baby, another early rom-com, and the original Scarface.
Scarface.
Yeah, early gangster movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, that's early 30s. I like the Scarface, actually. It's amazing how similar it is to the modern one.
It is the same plot with the same character beats. I didn't realize, I knew that 1983 De Palma Scarface was a remake. I didn't realize how close of a remake it was.
Yeah.
And then the last guy I want. So Howard Hawks, kind of how you feel on him? Is it lukewarm?
I mean, Bringing Up Baby
Yeah.
is great, right? And Only Angels Have Wings, Scarface. I think he was a pretty influential director.
Mm-hmm. And the last one I bring up is Michael Curtiz, who did Adventures of Robin Hood, which is the movie we picked as the best movie of the 30s. Also Angels with Dirty Faces, another gangster movie, and Captain Blood, another swashbuckling movie.
Yeah, and he did a lot of movies in the 30s.
Yes.
I mean, probably the most of any of the people we've talked about.
So I think we could probably cut Lang and Hawks.
I was going to keep in Hawks and cut Capra and Lang.
Okay, that's fine. So
Yeah.
Lang for sure, and Capra I'm okay with.
Yeah.
So now we're down to Chaplin, Hawks, and Curtiz.
Can I throw in one more director?
Yes, please
just
do.
For your consideration?
Please.
Jean Renoir.
Talk to me more about Jean Renoir.
Jean Renoir, he did The Rules of the Game.
Yep. Okay. Seen that one.
Heard of it, right?
Yep.
Let's see. What else does he have? He has La Bête Humaine.
Never seen it, but I'm familiar with it.
And The Grand Illusion.
Oh, he did The Grand Illusion. That's a
Yes.
prison escape movie, correct?
Yeah.
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 And he does have quite the directorial eye.
For sure. He's definitely on tour.
Yeah.
So I think he's worth a consideration. Also, it gives us a little international cred.
Yeah. I'm gonna completely admit when I made my short list, it was not intentional. I was trying to not pick a bunch of white American men. But when you're talking about like defining voices of a decade, because of how the movie business is structured, it tumbles down to white men, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. I mean, people weren't allowed to make these movies before, you know?
No, and even now, you know, you like in our lifetime, you're not seeing in our lifetime we weren't seeing as many people who are not white men getting as many opportunities to make movies. So even though there were more women and people of color making movies, they're making maybe 1 or 2 a year instead of
Exactly.
5 or 6 a year. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
so just want to throw that stipulation out there. We're not just trying to only pick white men, but kind of hard given the nature of the business.
Sure. But at least I went with a French white man.
You did. And Fritz Lang is German.
Yeah.
So, right. We're
That's
yeah.
That's
okay.
true.
Murnau.
At this time of history, I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but
Yeah. Murnau, is he German also?
yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. All right. Okay.
All right. So we have Curtiz, Hawks, and Renoir.
And Chaplin.
Yeah.
So
obviously.
I think Chaplin is probably the favorite.
Okay.
Just because Modern Times and City Lights are classics. They're his 2 probably best known. And I would say Chaplin himself defines this decade.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Modern Times and City Lights. One knock against him is he only made 3 films this decade.
Yeah. But if there are 3 decade-defining films, though.
Well, they're 2.
Yeah, I know. What's the third one?
Charlie Chaplin Carnival.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that one. Okay. If 66% of his output is...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I agree. Those are 2 huge movies, right? And he was all over them. I feel like there's a little bit of a Buster Keaton thing going on where, you know, part of it is his performance. But also, I do think there's a directorial kind of imprint on it. You know, it definitely has something to say.
Mhm.
A lot of Buster Keaton's movies are just aren't as didactic, but like Charlie Chaplin's films, especially these 2, like have a message, right? They're satire almost.
Oh, yeah. Modern Times is a satire of like the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. And City Lights, a satire of like electricity?
Yeah, you know, I haven't seen that one. Is City of Lights the one where he meets the blind woman?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So I think it's a satire of a pre-ADA America.
Yeah. I think Yeah. Okay. So we got to get rid of Curtiz, Hawks, or Renoir. Who's the first one you're cutting?
I think Hawks, I'm fine cutting.
Okay.
I
We
like
love
Bring It Baby. I like
Baby.
Scarface, but I
Only
don't.
Angels Have Wings. Those are great. But
Yep.
other than that, man, come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
With Curtiz, the only one I've seen is Adventures of Robin Hood, which is an amazing movie, but I have not seen the other two, so I don't know like how well of an argument I can make for him.
Gotcha. I have not seen Captain Blood. I haven't seen any of the other ones.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give it to him, even though he had a lot of movies. Definitely had a lot of movies.
Yep.
But he's not getting it for me. So we're down to Chaplin and Renoir.
Yeah, so I guess I'm leaning back towards like Murnau versus Keaton, and if you showed two people a Chaplin movie part of it and a Renoir movie part of it and said which one of these is familiar to you, I think Chaplin's going to win that contest.
We can't lean too heavily on that criteria because we did not mention it at the beginning of the show, but I agree with you.
But I think that's maybe part of the defining a decade or the staying power from a decade.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the iconic nature of it. Now, I do think Renoir had a huge impact on like world cinema.
Yes.
You know, like 20 years later, he's people's favorite director and they're making films based on like things that they saw kind of thing. But most people have not seen The Rules of the Game or The Grand Illusion, although I recommend The Grand Illusion for sure. Grand
Illusion is great, and Rules of the Game is that's a satire of rich French culture.
Yeah, it's a send up, but it's fairly dry. I only gave that a 3.5. Rules of the Game was maybe one of the first list movies I ever watched.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was very early on, but The Grand Illusion I gave 4.5 stars.
Yeah, it's a 4-star movie. It's a good prison escape movie. Yep.
But I think Charlie Chaplin should get this.
I concur.
So we're gonna go 1930s best director, Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin. Yep. All right, you ready for 1940s?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, thank you for listening. Do you want me to just fly through these again, or do you want me to go through each one and we kind of talk about it?
You know, let's get into it. Let's suggest some people, and we'll kind of briefly talk about them. All
right. Well, I'm going to throw Frank Capra, his name, back in the mix here.
Okay.
It's a Wonderful Life and Arsenic and Old Lace, his probably two biggest movies of the 40s.
Sure. Which I think are great. Now, It's a Wonderful Life was not well received in its time. It was a huge box office bomb.
Yeah.
Which is just something to take note of.
No, and it became popular because it was just something to play on Christmas.
Yeah.
Like stations needed something to fill the time.
Yeah.
And now it's a classic.
Yeah.
So, good. Okay. Good to note. Howard Hawks, he's back. His Girl Friday, another rom-com. The Big Sleep, great noir. And To Have and To Have Not, another great noir. This one is the Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, their first pairing together.
Yeah, and these are huge movies. And when I think of the 40s, I do think of these kind of noir films.
And Bogart for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Curtiz, throwing his name back in the hat. Casablanca, heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Right, another Bogart. Mildred Pierce, which is I believe is Joan Crawford. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't. No,
okay.
I have. Yes, I have.
You have seen it. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. This is a recent watch for me. And another kind of a slow burn noir I really liked. And then he did Yankee Doodle Dandy, which is not my favorite movie. Is that James Cagney? But it is a list movie, and it is a well-regarded movie of this decade.
It's a Best Picture winner too, right?
Sure. I'll take your word for it.
It sounds like a Best Picture winner.
Okay. I'm gonna hold off on that guy. I'm gonna skip that guy. Let's go to John Huston.
Okay.
Maltese Falcon, classic noir. Treasure of the Sierra Madre, another Humphrey Bogart movie. So far, Humphrey Bogart has been in like half the movies that we've mentioned.
Did we give him Actor of the Decade?
I hope we did.
Sure sounds like we should have. He also did Key Largo.
Yeah, he also did Key Largo, another Bogart Bacall one from John Huston. Yep. All right, here is heavy hitter number 1, Orson Welles.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
Yeah.
Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Also did The Stranger, which I have seen, and The Lady from Shanghai I have not.
Okay. So that's interesting because Citizen Kane, obviously one of the most influential movies of all time. But the rest of the, Lady from Shanghai, The Magnificent Ambersons. Have you seen The Magnificent Ambersons?
I have not, no.
So this movie is as well regarded as Citizen Kane, I would say.
Okay.
And it's famously kind of lost. Like we don't have the original. We have like a shortened version of it.
Really?
Yeah. But so I've seen the shortened version of it, but apparently the like 4-hour version is like a masterpiece.
Okay.
Is what I've been told. Those two movies are pretty huge as far as like cinema goes and like influentialness.
Right. If you want to talk about like a director with an eye, Orson Welles is definitely that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more big name. I don't know if this is a decade, but definitely on the map, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rope.
Notorious.
Rebecca, my favorite Hitchcock personally.
Shadow of a Doubt.
Spellbound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
He's a big name for this decade.
Now, did we take into consideration him in other decades, or like can we have repeats on our list?
I think we can. I know some of the people that I have pop up in like 4 or 5 decades.
Sure.
Especially as you get to like 70s, 80s, 90s.
I am comfortable having the same director in multiple decades if they've earned it.
I agree. Nothing says we have to pick a unique director for every decade, and that's why Murnau has won every decade so far.
And we'll continue to.
All right, so 1940s, Murnau, great. Okay, who do you want to cut? Capra, Hawks, Curtiz, Hitchcock, Wells, Houston.
I think we need to cut Capra again,
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That's fine.
He's just got 2 films that are of note. One of them kind of bombed at the time. I love these films, but I don't know if he's the director of the decade, especially, compared to Wells and Hitchcock and you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know.
How do you feel about Hawks? I mean, His Girl Friday, Big Sleep, Have and Have Not. Big movies, big director?
So I do see these as director movies.
Okay.
Also, I think the writing is huge on these.
Yep.
But His Girl Friday is so great. The Big Sleep is so great. Red River, To Have and Have Not.
Yep.
These are big films. I'm not ready to cut them yet.
Okay.
I'm not ready to cut them yet.
Curtiz, he's got Casablanca. He's got Mildred Pierce, and he's got Yankee Doodle Dandy. I feel like he's got like amazing, good, and probably for us, mediocre.
Yeah, I agree. Super well respected, right? And I think Casablanca is a very well directed film.
It's the movie we picked as the best movie of the 40s.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not ready to cut him yet either.
Okay. Hitchcock?
That's tough, man. He's got what, 5 or 6 just bangers?
I would say at least 5 bangers, if not more. I mean, he did a ton of movies in the 30s, and these are the 5 big ones.
The 40s.
Sorry, 40s. Yeah, he did a ton of 50s also.
Next decade, he's got a ton in the next decade.
Zach, if you think this is hard now, you just wait till we have 10 nominees.
Oh, this is crazy.
Yeah. All right, so I feel like okay.
Where are you leaning?
I could probably cut John Huston.
Okay, and you would cut Houston because
I mean
Treasure of the Sierra Madre doesn't do it for you.
No, I like Maltese Falcon. I like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and I think Key Largo is a good movie. I'm just trying to think now. Okay, I think at this point these are all great movies. So who defines the decade?
And those to me are more Bogart.
Correct. Yeah, those are all Bogart movies.
Those are more Bogart to me.
Yeah. So I think that I don't know if the name Houston so much defines the 40s as much as Houston and Bogart.
Sure, I can see what you're saying there.
Okay.
Can I ask? Can I add one more director to the mix?
No,
because we need that.
Yeah, please.
Michael Powell.
Tell me, Michael Powell?
Yeah.
Tell me about Michael Powell.
Okay, Michael Powell directed. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
The Fighting Pimpernel.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, The Red Shoes.
Oh, I like that movie. That was good.
Black Narcissus.
Haven't seen it, but that's a nun movie.
Yeah, you would like it. It's a nun
Okay.
movie. Stairway to Heaven.
He wrote Stairway?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he directed it. And The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp.
Heard of it. Okay, so
And The Thief of Baghdad.
Heard of it.
Which is what Aladdin is based on.
I have only seen The Red Shoes.
Okay. All right. So
Red Shoes was a great movie. I was entranced. It's psychedelic, and especially for the 40s, it seemed way ahead of its time.
Yeah. All right.
but
So
I don't
you're
know
not
if
going Powell.
I just
I'm not gonna
don't have
convince you.
enough background
Yeah,
to like
that's
say
fair.
this is the guy. So
All right.
I'm glad you brought it up,
Powell's
though.
dead to us.
People should see The Red Shoes if they have not.
Yeah.
Okay, so did we kept Hawks, we kept Curtiz. Oh, did we
We
cut
have Hawks,
Curtiz?
Curtiz, Hitchcock, and Wells.
Okay, are we cutting Curtiz? I think he's the next one who could probably go.
It's Goodbye Casablanca. Yeah, let's cut him.
Okay, Curtiz is gone. All right, Hawks, Hitchcock, Wells.
Yeah.
Um,
Hawks to me has those 40s films, you know, Big Sleep, Have and Have Not.
yeah,
Bringing Up Baby was the decade before. His Girl Friday.
I
Hawks,
would,
I'm leaning Hawks right now.
I would go Hawks over Hitchcock.
I would go
For-
Hawks over Hitchcock, especially because I think his best films, his most famous films are in the 50s.
I concur. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure he has no competition for that decade.
No, it's gonna run away. we did this when we did Best Actor. We were like, let's push that guy to the next decade. That's a good. And then then whoever that was, like Leonardo DiCaprio, we kept pushing him.
Or Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Well, Brad Pitt, we eventually came to in the 20s.
Okay.
The two.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I feel like we're leaning Hawks. I know Orson Welles is big with Citizen Kane, but like if you're talking those three, His Girl Friday, Big Sleep, To Have and Have Not, those are 1940s movies.
Those are 1940s movies. I
Yep.
do think that Magnificent Ambersons and Citizen Kane, hugely influential. But if we're going back, here's the thing. Let's back up a second.
Okay.
We are going for best director
Yep.
of the decade.
Yep.
So is Howard Hawks a better director in the 40s than Orson Welles or Alfred Hitchcock? Are you telling me that the direction on these films that we like from Howard Hawks is better than the direction of Alfred Hitchcock or Orson Welles?
So I think when we talk about Howard Hawks, we're talking script. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Do you think of him as like this revelatory director that, like, if you could bring him back from the dead to direct one more film, you would jump at the opportunity?
I don't know if he's revelatory, but I think he is defining. That's my issue. Is like, is this that defining part of him?
Yeah.
But
Like,
but Hitchcock, I mean, like Rope. If you want to talk about director, that is someone who, I mean, it's a fake oneer, but it's done very well. And like, there's little moments of Rope where the camera is showing you things that I love. Rebecca, I love Rebecca. It's a wonderful movie.
You do love, like, Rebecca.
It's my favorite Hitchcock. No apologies.
That's your favorite Hitchcock?
It's my favorite Hitchcock. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you see the remake?
Which one? I've seen.
Didn't
several.
they a couple years ago, maybe?
No. Oh no, I did not see the one that was on Netflix. I heard it was trash. I have seen the Masterpiece Theater one from the 90s with Diana Rigg as Mrs. Danvers. That one was good. I like that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I even wrote down Howard Hawks in our final list because I was like, well, we've reached a consensus already.
Yeah.
But now I think he's on my chopping block for the reasons that I stated.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at director to director, I mean, this could be Hitchcock's decade already.
Here, I know I said I'd be fine with a director on multiple decades, but I almost think that if he wins the 50s, I want to give the 40s to Orson Welles.
50. Okay, we can't play that game. No, we can't play that game.
We can't play that game?
No, because I know who's coming up in the 50s, and I can't guarantee you a Hitchcock in the 50s either. I think we have to look at, we can't be playing this Well, they could win next decade. We have to look at decade to decade. Imagine we're in a box. You don't know what's happening after 1939. Wow, so much happened after 1939.
49.
Sorry, you're right, 49. Right, we're the 40s.
Yeah,
now.
this is in the 40s.
Okay, you're right.
It's interesting. None of these have anything to do with World War II. Like what the world's going through. It's so naive.
To one of these, I thought To Have and to Have Not was taking place. One of these Bogart Bacall movies was taking place like people were refugees from the war.
Oh yeah, maybe
in like the Caribbean. It might be To Have and to Have Not. Like
sure.
There is a French revolutionaries escaping France, but that's an undercurrent to the movie. It's not a war movie.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay,
so Hitchcock, we got Rope, Notorious.
Notorious is a war movie also. It's about spies.
Yeah. Rebecca. Okay, I could go either way on Hitchcock or Welles. I do kind of feel like the best director of the 40s was Orson Welles. I feel like that's hard to argue with.
Yeah, since I have not seen the magnificent Ambersands, right?
Ambersons, yeah.
Ambersons, I'm taking ampersands. I'm going to take your word on that one. We talked about Citizen Kane as a show a long time ago. We all agreed it's a great directed movie. I like The Stranger. I've not seen Lady from Shanghai. I'm okay with going Orson Welles.
I think that we should.
Okay.
But I'm more comfortable than you are changing it to Alfred Hitchcock if the 50s don't go my way.
Well, I can't get. You know what? I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot tell you what's coming up in the 50s. So, if you would take Welles over Hitchcock in this black box, then it's gonna be Welles.
All right.
Okay.
Do you feel good about Welles, or do you want to do Hitchcock?
I'm kind of 50-50 to be completely honest. Just because I have not like Welles. For me, Welles has that one big one.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock's got at least 4 big ones for this decade.
I agree. It's just they're not his best films.
No. Okay. All right. Let's do Welles.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change it though if I feel like it at the 50s. I'm not. I can't do that to you. It's a collaborative list.
All right. Welles it is. We collaborated to Welles.
Ugh.
Oh, you're not happy with that, are you?
Well, it's just I want it to be Welles and Hitchcock.
I know. We can't have it all. All right. So 50s. We mentioned Hitchcock right away. Vertigo.
Yeah.
Right. For the longest time considered the best movie. No, actually that's the new best movie of all time.
Yeah, it is. It beat Citizen Kane.
Kane. Yep. Rear Window.
Oh my goodness.
Like the second best Hitchcock movie consensus wise. North by Northwest, the third best Hitchcock movie consensus wise. Maybe Psycho's up there too, but that's in the 60s. So, and then Strangers on a Train, which is a good Hitchcock movie. Not my favorite, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 heavy hitters for the 50s.
Oh yeah.
Also I don't want to throw away though the Western. John Ford is doing The Searchers, Rio Grande, and The Quiet Man, as well as Mr. Roberts. There's a World War II movie for you.
Yeah, those are really well-directed films.
We haven't really talked Westerns at all yet.
Nope.
So, William Wyler, Roman Holiday, and Ben-Hur, right? You got another rom-com and a huge biblical epic.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip those 2 names. All right. Elia Kazan, right? On the Waterfront, Streetcar Named Desire, there's 2 Brandos, East of Eden, and A Face in the Crowd.
Yeah. Those are big
movies of this decade. Since you've been wanting to throw in the international pick every single time, here's Henri Georges Clouzot with Diabolique and Wages of Fear.
Yeah, those are great.
Those are great movies, and I mean Diabolique is a Hitchcock style movie.
Yeah.
Yep. This name's gonna come up a couple times, but Stanley Kubrick making his debut in the 50s. Fear and Desire, Killer's Kiss, not the strongest. The Killing and Paths of Glory. I don't think he's quite ready yet, but I want to throw his name out there.
He hasn't fully matured as a director yet.
I mean, he made a ton of progress in the 50s. Like if you look at Fear and Desire to Paths of Glory, that's 1 decade where he started,
Yeah.
where he ended up. That's a huge amount of maturing going on, which is
Agreed.
pretty incredible. But I don't think he's there yet. Okay, here's big name number 1 that's going to fight Alfred Hitchcock. Billy Wilder.
Yeah. Who is your favorite director, I believe, right?
He is my favorite director, correct. Sunset Boulevard, amazing movie. Some Like It Hot, amazing movie. Witness for the Prosecution, good movie. Don't remember as well as I should. Ace in the Hole, great movie. 7 Year Itch, haven't seen it. That's a classic though. Then Stalag 17, another, that's a World War II movie, another amazing movie.
Yeah.
So I think Billy Wilder's a big name. And then here's the other big name, Akira Kurosawa.
Heard of him.
Seven Samurai. We gave Seven Samurai the best movie of the 1950s.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Rashomon.
Also, Ikaru.
Yeah, Ikaru. Right, Rashomon. You want to talk about directing? Let's tell the same story from 3 different perspectives.
Rashomon, Throne of Blood,
Mm-hmm.
Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress.
Was Hidden Fortress influential on Star Wars?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Hidden Fortress has like 2 minor characters narrating it. There's kind of like your whole like R2D2 C3PO kind of idea.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So I threw out 7 names, but what I think are the 3 big ones, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. Hitchcock, Wilder, Kurosawa.
Hitchcock, Wilder, Kurosawa. I agree that we can throw out Wyler.
William Wyler.
Ben-Hur and Roman Holiday are great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's not going to compete at this level.
Nope.
John Ford, Rio Grande, Quiet Man, The Searchers. Also, these are all great. I don't think it's going to compete at this level.
Mm-hmm.
Elia Kazan, I don't think it's going to compete, unfortunately, for them. Can I throw in one more name?
Well, what about Andre Georges Clouzot before you throw another name in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great.
I don't think he's got enough star power.
Throw in your name.
Ingmar Bergman.
I consider this name for the 50s. I think the only one I've seen though is Seventh Seal, which
Okay.
I was kind of neutral on. I understand its impact, but personally, I was not blown away.
I'm okay throwing him in the dustbin, but first I just want to say he made The Seventh Seal,
Mm-hmm.
Wild Strawberries,
Yeah, another one I was neutral on. Yeah.
and Smiles of a Summer Night.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's doing maybe more interesting things in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want to keep him in there. So I'm going to throw him out now, but I just wanted to mention him.
I'm not aware that there's a decade called the 60s yet. So
That's awesome.
okay. So Hitchcock, Wilder, Kurosawa. Right now, you're probably wishing you gave Hitchcock to the 40s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Okay, so let's go Hitchcock. We got
Okay.
North by Northwest.
Yep.
Vertigo.
Yeah.
The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Mm-hmm.
To Catch a Thief. Rear Window. Dial M for Murder. Strangers on a Train. That's an impressive filmography.
That is a good one. Yeah.
That is a very impressive filmography. Billy Wilder. We got Some Like It's Hot.
Mm-hmm. Great comedy.
7 Year Itch. Stalag 17. Ace in the Hole, and Sunset Boulevard.
Witness for the Prosecution also.
And Witness for the Prosecution.
Yep.
Okay. And then Kurosawa, Hidden Fortress, Throne of Blood, Seven Samurai, Ikaru, Rashomon. It's tough.
I
tough.
really don't know which one to cut right now. We have to cut.
This is tough.
We have to cut one of them.
Okay. Okay. So let's start with Kurosawa and talk about him as a director. Are these films well directed?
I mean,
apart from being just good films, like, do we credit the director for having this like imprint on these films? Like, could these films have been made by just anyone?
I don't know if Rashomon could be made by just anyone. Like, I'm trying to think, what is his strongest directorial eye of these movies? And I think Rashomon is it.
Rashomon for sure. Ikaru is such a personal film.
Yep.
Hidden Fortress has had a huge impact. Seven Samurai obviously has had a huge impact. That's
Yeah.
right up there with Citizen Kane as far as impact.
Yep.
And it's not a white guy,
And it's not a white guy.
right?
Yeah. That is something. Well, that's something that is something to consider. Yeah.
What about Billy Wilder? Is he white?
Yeah, he's German. I mean, he's American. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Wilder is not his birth last name.
Do you think it's Wilder?
It's probably Wilder. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You've that up.
I'm looking it up. Billy
Okay.
Wilder, Samuel Wilder.
Okay. All right. Here's the thing, Billy Wilder. He also did a ton of writing for his movies.
Oh, interesting.
So now this is one of those questions of he directed a lot of what he wrote. Is he remembered because he's the writer, because he's the director, because of both? Is there a unique Billy Wilder look to these movies? Like obviously Sunset Boulevard Sunset Boulevard has some amazing shots that are burned in cinema history. And 7-Year Itch, does that have Marilyn Monroe over the grate?
What are you asking?
You know, the famous Marilyn Monroe standing over the subway grate with her dress flying around?
No, that's not something like
That's
that.
not, no, 7-Year Itch, I mean.
Oh, it might be. I haven't seen.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it either. So
yeah, I don't think she was famous by that point, was she?
I think she was made famous in the 50s,
Okay.
and these movies like Some Like It Hot, 7-Year Itch, part of me.
7-Year Itch is the great with the blowing dress.
Is the great
for
with the
sure.
blowing dress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's I have to walk on eggshells because Billy Wilder is your favorite director.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to give you an off ramp here.
A lot of these movies, it's the writing for me.
Yeah, that's exactly. I agree.
It's the writing for me, and while he is the director, it's the writing that really sells it, or the acting. Like in Ace in the Hole, for me, it's the acting. You know, Some Like It Hot, the acting and the writing together, right? Whereas like with Kurosawa and Hitchcock, they wrote those films as well. Like they all these people did these screenplays for these movies, right? So they're all writers and directors. But for me, I see a lot more than just the writing that stands out to me in the Hitchcock and the Kurosawa.
I am comfortable cutting Wilder for those exact same reasons.
I
was
would
already
maybe
kind of on that boat of he's as much the writer as he's the director of these movies.
I think in a future list, we're going to do the best writers of each decade.
Oh, I cannot wait till we get to best second director.
best boy.
best boy.
Yeah. And I think Wilder could have a serious contention for best writer of the 50s.
I concur.
But I want to cut him for director and leave us with Hitchcock and Kurosawa.
Okay. This is tough. I'm going to say right now of these two, I'm leaning Hitchcock.
Okay.
It's partially because Vertigo and Rear Window and North by Northwest have such a specific look to them. Like this is not, here's a script, let's go film it. Like this is a man controlling every aspect of every shot in those movies, especially Vertigo and Rear Window. I rewatched Rear Window recently. I forgot that whole thing is shot from the point of view of his apartment.
Yeah.
In my memory, like you're down in the garden, you're over here, you're over there. That whole thing is from his apartment.
Yeah.
And that it blew me away.
It's pretty wild, actually. Yeah. I will say I tend to like this era of Kurosawa's films better than Hitchcock's films.
Okay.
But I think Hitchcock put out more films of notable quality than Kurosawa during this period. Like he's just pumping out hit after hit, right?
Yeah.
Like Dial M for Murder and Rear Window came out the same year.
Oh, Dial M for Murder came out in the 50s?
1954.
I'll completely miss that one on my short list.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dial M for Murder.
Yeah.
Which is a great movie.
And that one is based on a play, and he films it fourth wall style, but it doesn't feel like you're watching a stage play.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I'm comfortable going Hitchcock, although I
I-
would very comfortable going Kurosawa.
I am comfortable going Hitchcock too. Yeah, I think maybe if we had gone Hitchcock last decade, have gone Kurosawa this decade, but
I agree. I agree.
But I think Hitchcock takes this decade.
Whew. Sorry, Kurosawa. We love you. Rashomon and Seven Samurai, though.
Kurosawa got his due. We didn't cut him. He's no William Wyler. We're just threw him off the list right away.
I put him in parentheses on my list in the 50s.
All right. Well, if you thought that was hard, it's only getting harder.
No, it's got to be downhill from here.
Yeah. All right. 1960s. I'm gonna go backwards on my list here because I seem to have listed these from like least or most to least. All right. So, Roman Polanski, Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion.
Okay.
Throwing that name out there.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc Godard, Breathless, huge movie of the 60s.
Yeah.
Of the French New Wave, super influential. Pierrot Le Fou, super cool people like this movie.
It's true.
Vivre sa vie, Contempt, which I haven't seen yet. It's actually sitting on my Netflix DVD queue up on my house in my console right now.
Contempt.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And Alphaville.
Yeah, which I haven't seen yet, but
I liked Alphaville
good
a
stuff.
lot.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yep. All right. I talked about it a lot recently. Mike Nichols. Only 2 movies of note, but they're The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Great movies.
Yeah.
Great movies.
David Lean, also only 2 of note, but they're Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago.
I didn't like Dr. Zhivago.
I didn't either. A lot of people like it, and it is a classic of this decade.
You're supposed to like it.
I
but
know.
I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Come on.
If you want to cut David Lean right now, we can cut David Lean.
Yeah. Come on. Who
Okay.
cares?
All right. He's off. All right. Cool. This one was a tough one. I like this guy. Louis Buñuel. Belle de Jour.
Buñuel.
The Exterminating Angel, and Viridiana.
Yes. Those are
Yeah.
really good.
Okay, so here are the big names now. Federico Fellini, The Dolce Vita, 8.5. Those are his 2 big
Yeah.
ones. I think he did some more in this decade too. Sergio Leone, you've got his 3 Man with No Name trilogy movies, Fistful of Dollars, Few Dollars More, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And then also, let's just throw in Once Upon a Time in the West while we're at it.
Okay.
Coming back, Akira Kurosawa, Yojimbo, which influenced Fistful of Dollars,
Yep.
High and Low, Sanjiro, and Redbeard.
Sure.
And then, let's be honest, you gotta talk me off of this one. Stanley Kubrick, 1960s, Lolito, Spartacus, Doctor Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I mean, I've heard of those films.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say right now, that is your Everest.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we should talk about these other people. I'm not saying we should just throw them all out, but I'm just going in right now that if you're feeling not Kubrick, you're gonna have to, go hard.
All right. Well, let's go through some of these directors and say if I can get rid of them handedly or not.
Okay, let's talk about Polanski first.
Polanski. I am not going to give this to Polanski.
Okay, that's fine. He's gone.
Rosemary Baby and Repulsion, fine. Does it beat Kubrick? Basically, I'm thinking like, do they have a shot against your Kubrick?
The shot against my Kubrick. Yep.
He does not have a shot against your Kubrick.
All right. He's out.
Okay. Who do you want to go next?
Let's go Godard, because I know he's probably your favorite of this. Or is that too big? Do you want to skip Godard right now?
Let's stay with the low-hanging fruit.
Okay. How about Mike Nichols?
Okay. We got Graduate. We've got Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Yep.
Those are awesome. Those are awesome movies. Is The Graduate better than 2001: Space Odyssey? No.
No.
How
about
I like these films.
Yeah, I do too. These are good movies.
You don't sound like you like them. I'm just kidding.
Just because 2 things can be true.
He only made those 2 films, though. He's
I know.
out. He's out.
All right. How about Buñuel, who I liked Exterminating Angel and Viridiana. I think Exterminating Angel is my favorite of all the Buñuels I've seen.
Buñuel is so awesome. There's another film that you haven't seen yet called Belle de Jour.
Yep, I want to see that though. It's on my list.
And that movie is so good.
Mhm.
It is so good. I really liked it. And man, I'm not ready to cut Buñuel yet.
Okay.
Maybe later.
Fellini, I love the Dolce Vita. I did not get 8.5.
Well, you know that's on you though, right?
No, I think that's on Fellini.
No, I'm just joking because I did not care for 8.5 as well. It's one of those famous movies, but yeah, from the 60s, he's got an 8.5 in La Dolce Vita. But, you know, a lot of his movies were in the 50s, you know, Nights at Cabiria, La Strada.
Yeah, he didn't come up last decade at all, did he?
He didn't. Because for me, La Strada and Nights at Cabiria are not enough.
Okay.
And also for me, 8.5 in La Dolce Vita is not enough.
Yeah.
So I'm cutting them.
All right. I'm going to throw it out there. So I think we've cut all those names. First one, Godard.
Godard, man. And I also want to talk about Truffaut.
Oh, good. All right. Talk about Truffaut then. Bring his name in.
Okay. You didn't mention Truffaut, which I think is a mistake.
I may not have seen enough of his. That could be why. Again, these are kind of my picks, but so I'm glad you're bringing some in here.
Okay. Now, we just missed the 400 Blows by 1 year.
Yep. That's the one I've seen.
But Jules and Jim.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Fahrenheit 451.
I haven't seen it.
That's all.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to like come with the big guns. And you gave me...
No. I just wanted to mention him.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because Truffaut and the French New Wave during the 60s is a huge movement, okay?
400 Blows I like a lot. That was a good movie.
That was a good movie. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You know what? We're dancing on Godard. That's fine. Let's go Leone.
Okay. Okay. Sergio.
Yeah.
He has a perfect filmography from the 60s.
He also has the Colossus of Rhodes, which is his worst movie of all. So
and Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh yeah.
Uncredited. Yeah. Okay.
But he also has 4 defining westerns of this decade.
Yes. Once Upon a Time in the West, I think is his weakest of the 4, and then the Good, the Bad, the Ugly trilogy, The Man with No Name.
Yeah.
Man, as far as like sheer directorial brilliance, this is a standout as far as like a director goes, right?
Yeah.
He like took the Western and made it high art. So I think that's pretty impressive.
Kurosawa.
I'm okay cutting Kurosawa on this.
Yeah, I like Yojimbo. I like High and Low a lot. I have not seen Sanjuro or Redbeard.
I haven't either.
Okay.
And these are great films, but I don't think he beats some of these other directors just with those films alone.
All right. It's happening, Zach.
So, well, hold on. Can I bring Ingmar Bergman back in the mix again?
Yes. You may delay the inevitable if you like.
Okay. Ingmar Bergman in the 60s has The Virgin Spring, which I know you haven't seen yet.
No.
But it's so awesome. He's got Through a Glass Darkly, also awesome. Winter Light, awesome.
So far.
Persona, right?
I like
You've
Persona's
seen Persona.
Good. That's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Hour of the Wolf, awesome. I would be tempted to pick him if this was my list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you haven't seen any of these films.
Not just Persona. So, yeah, I don't feel like I could.
I don't think I'm going to talk you into it.
Nah, no, you're not going to.
So I'm going to take them out of contention. But I just had to let the people know what they're missing.
Yep.
Okay. And Godard. Let's talk Godard for a second. Perhaps you've heard of him?
Yeah, didn't he die?
Yeah, you guys were so harsh on Godard. Oh my goodness. That was wild. The Godard hate on that episode was incredible in your last 10 top 10 recently.
Well, it just seemed appropriate to discuss Godard when you were not there.
Yeah, apparently. Okay. Let's talk about it. Breathless.
Let's talk about Godard.
Breathless, one of the most influential movies of the 60s, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know who was watching Godard is New Hollywood, right? Spielberg, Polanski, George Lucas, Scorsese, all of these people were so heavily influenced by Godard.
Yeah, I haven't heard of these people yet.
Godard and Truffaut are the French New Wave. To me, that screams 60s, right? The 1960s are the French New Wave in my mind. Anyway, okay, so he has Breathless, 1960. He wastes no time starting the decade. He's got Vivre sa vie, a movie I have on Blu-ray Criterion. It is so good. Have you seen this yet?
I have not seen Vivre sa vie. No, the only two Godard I've seen are Breathless and Alphaville. With Contempt sitting up on the console.
Vivre sa vie is so creative and fun to watch. It is super fun. At one point, it like pans, like she's crossing the street and it pans with her, but for whatever reason, it chops up like half the frames out. And then every time the camera like skips, you hear a gunshot. And it's just so unexpected. It's just very awesome. Contempt is crazy, man. Contempt is crazy. It's really good. Alphaville, I haven't seen.
I like
so
it.
I can't attest to its quality or not.
It's like a satire of noir action movies. It's a satire of detective movies, yeah. With his own little
Pierre LeFou. I mean, yeah. Look at the cover of this thing. It's just he's got a blue face. Blue face, Kyle.
Blue face.
Yeah. And then those are the, other masculine, feminine I haven't seen. A Woman is a Woman I haven't seen, but these are well-regarded films.
Okay.
Now you're not going to go for him, I don't think. So he might lose for that reason. But I think we got to take seriously Jean-Luc Godard.
So I completely understand where you're coming from with Godard. And I understand your love for him.
Oh, wait, did we talk about Weekend?
No.
Oh my goodness. Weekend came up in 1967. Have you seen Weekend?
No. I've only seen two Godard.
Weekend is insane. First of all, it's got a true oneer that lasts about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And it's not a fake oneer, so you'll like that. And that movie is just bonkers. Like, it's just, you have not seen a movie like Weekend ever. So good. All right. So that's Godard. There's a lot to love there. Yeah. Now, talk to me about Stanley Kubrick.
All right.
In the 60s.
So, little guy. Right. All right. So Kubrick, we talk about in the 50s. He's kind of getting his sea legs, right? He starts out kind of weak, ends pretty strong.
Hold on, kind of weak?
Yeah. No. Fear and Desire.
He wrote off Spartacus.
No. I'm talking about the 50s now. In the 60s, we're getting 60s now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, he did Spartacus for hire.
Yeah.
Right? He was brought in to complete this movie after the first director was hired. This is the only movie that he did where he did not have the control he wanted over it. This is the movie that made him decide, I don't want to work with studios anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I think this Spartacus is a defining movie of his career. Given, no matter his opinion of it, it is a well-directed movie. There are some incredible battles, like cast 1,000 battles in Spartacus.
It's kind of long, though.
Okay, you're really just going to kind of crap all over Kubrick here because you really want Godard.
So, no. Okay. I'm just asking if you think it's a little long.
It's long. It doesn't feel long. It's a long movie.
Oh, it just breezes by for you.
I mean, it doesn't breeze by, but it doesn't drag.
It's 3 hours and 17 minutes. Just FYI.
It's a crisp 3 hours and 17 minutes. Okay. All right. So, number one. Next, he did Lolita. And Lolita is definitely a challenging movie to talk about. Both its subject matter and how he handled that subject matter with a bit of lightness to it. I think Kubrick felt like he wanted to do something provocative, but then felt uncomfortable doing it. So went for a comedic take with the whole thing. And Lolita is another one where he's talked about, like, yeah, I would maybe do that differently or not do that at all if I had a second chance at it.
Yeah.
He follows up with Dr. Strangelove. One of the greatest war movies, right? Endlessly quotable satire on the entire arms race and nuclear power race. And iconic scene after iconic scene. But that wasn't enough for him. So, little movie. You may have heard of it. it may have come up this podcast once or twice. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this movie. Like, this is a genre-defying movie. If you want to talk about what influenced the guys of the 70s, George Lucas, whose name might come up later, Steven Spielberg, they were watching 2001: A Space Odyssey and were like, how do I do that?
Gotcha.
2001: A Space Odyssey is also the movie we chose as the best movie of the 1960s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Spartacus is not a great movie. It's good. I like it. I actually do like Spartacus. Lolita, I think, is very interesting.
Yes.
I don't like Peter Sellers in the movie.
Yeah, he's doing characters. He's doing bits.
It seems really out of place, and I don't know why he wasn't excised from the film. I guess he's super famous, right? He's a lot better in Strangelove.
Well, he's also playing like the main. No, I guess he's playing all secondary characters. He's not playing Lolita's lover. I can't think of what the guy's name is. Yeah.
Is that Mason or something?
Yeah, Mason. Yep.
Strangelove obviously is iconic, and then 2001 obviously is iconic.
Yeah.
I do like the progression of his directorial prominence in this decade, so I will give you that.
What I think. So I don't want to minimize Godard at all. Just because I've not seen as many of his movies as you have doesn't mean I don't recognize these as being classics of the 60s and classics of the French New Wave. I'm taking a bit of a populist approach to this, and I think more people associate the 60s with Kubrick than they do Godard. I feel like Godard is a little niche.
Here's the thing with Kubrick. He's so spread out. He takes so long between films.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, my favorite Kubrick films are in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, this is his most prolific decade.
Right.
Right. And after this, it's like 2 a decade.
So for me to give it to Kubrick, it's a little bit of me giving him like a Lifetime Achievement Award early on, because I'm not going to give it to him any other decades because it's just so little input. But these films, to varying degree, are all great, I would say. For me, it's between Kubrick, Leone, and Godard. I think Buñuel is not going to make it.
I mean, does Godard and Kubrick cancel each other out and we go Leone?
No, that's not how this works.
All right. It's not like ranked choice or anything.
Leone is an amazing director, but really it's the good and bad and the ugly for me, and the rest are like subordinate to that.
I don't think Once Upon a Time in the West is his weakest. That's probably actually his second or third. I think For a Few Dollars More is the weakest of all 4 of those.
Sure.
That's the one I remember the least of having those eye-catching moments.
Yeah. I think if I were making this list, I would pick Godard because that just screams the 60s to me, whereas Kubrick is I think Kubrick is my favorite director.
Yeah.
But for me, he's like spread out across decades, so it's hard for me to pick him for best of the decade. However, I think these are great films. I think he's a great director. I'm comfortable as a collaboration picking Kubrick as our director.
I am also comfortable, but I recognize the achievement of Godard here.
Yeah, it's just you haven't seen his films, so it's a little hard for us to collectively go with him.
Well, yeah. So I've seen Breathless. I was fine with. Like you mentioned one time that Breathless is about like a crime or something. I forgot about that completely. To me, Breathless is like people drive around in a convertible and like hanging out in hangs. Like to me, I remember the conversations of Breathless more than I remember the plot to the movie.
And it invented the high five.
So you say. Not baseball, this movie.
Yeah. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, it'll say a baseball game in the 70s, but I maintain it's Breathless.
But I'm going to watch Contempt soon. All these movies that I mentioned are all on my watch list. So in 5 years, a decade, or a year, whenever I get to all these, my opinion could change. But I think right now Kubrick is the right choice.
Yeah, Contempt left me speechless.
Yep.
For sure. All right, so we're going Kubrick?
We're going Kubrick.
All right.
Okay.
Kubrick.
Well, if that was easy, you just wait till we get to the 1970s.
Why did they get harder?
I think they get harder because we know more of the directors.
Okay. And there's probably more directors.
There's more. And the 70s was a revolution of American directing, right? We talked about New Hollywood. in the 70s brought us New Hollywood.
Okay.
All right. Oh man, I don't know where to start with the 70s. Let's go a name we said already, just because we just talked about that name. Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
All right. Clockwork Orange and Barry Lyndon. He only gave us 2 in the 70s, but they're 2 big ones.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it to him based on those 2.
That's fine. Okay. Very 70s movies by Sidney Lumet. Dog Day Afternoon, Network, and Serpico.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's going to make it with those.
Okay. Steven Spielberg making an appearance. Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Duel, Sugarland Express, and 1941.
Yeah, I mean, already with Jaws and Close Encounters, that's huge.
That's huge. Yep.
But I mean,
but it's 2 out of 5 though.
Yeah, for sure. And I just know he's going to go up against Coppola.
Who? Yeah.
Coppola.
Yeah. Okay. So
so I can't just automatically give it to him when I know Coppola's hanging out.
All right. Well, we'll get to Coppola. We'll get to there.
Okay.
Okay. William Friedkin, Sorcerer, Exorcist, French Connection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are great.
All right. Going the international pick, Andrei Tarkovsky, Stalker, Solaris, Mirror. Not my favorite, but I recognize his impact as a director.
Yeah. To varying degrees, I think all of those are amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Stalker I like the most.
Yeah, Stalker's so good.
So good. All right, Robert Altman, Long Goodbye, MASH, Nashville, McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Yeah, those are huge films.
Huge movies. Yep. Huge 70s movies. I threw this name on here because I recognize his contributions to the 70s, and that's Woody Allen.
He has a lot of films in the 70s. What do we got? We got Annie Hall, Manhattan, Sleeper.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Everything you always want to know about Sex But Afraid to Ask.
I'm probably not going to put Woody Allen on this list.
Okay, that's fine. I want to throw him out there. Big name in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, so far Spielberg's been our biggest name, but there's been a couple more big names in this decade.
Can we also mention Terrence Malick?
Yeah, I considered him because he's got Days of Heaven and
Badlands.
And those are 2. Badlands is a top 100 movie for me, and Days of Heaven I really like.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Okay, heavy hitter number 1, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, Mean Streets.
Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Last Waltz. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
I haven't seen those last 2.
Last Waltz is a documentary about the band. They're called the band. Their final performance, and it's like a star-studded show. And it's concert footage, but it's Martin Scorsese shooting concert footage.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, but I believe it's a seminal movie of that decade also.
Okay.
All right. Big name number 2, George Lucas.
Because Star Wars,
which we picked as the greatest movie of the 70s.
And American Graffiti.
Yep, and THX 1138.
Yeah.
Yep. And then big name number 3, already mentioned, Francis Ford Coppola, Godfather, Godfather 2, Apocalypse Now, and in case you have forgotten, The Conversation.
I'm going to come out, and I think that this is our easiest decision yet.
I kind of agree. I think this has to be Kubrick.
Yeah, for me, it's Coppola.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. This is definitely Coppola. Like, you look at those are 4 maybe perfect movies.
Yeah, no, I agree, and they're absolutely a director's film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to give it to Coppola. Now, obviously, Spielberg's got Jaws, right? That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
And George Lucas has Star Wars. That's huge. But Coppola has all of these.
Yeah. He's got every one of them. So
yeah. So, and those are all like his 70s was just those 4 movies. It was a perfect decade for him.
Yeah, I mean, and like, how old was he when he's making Godfather? It's gotta be his like 20s, right?
He was 13 at the time.
13 at the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Incredible that a 13-year-old was bossed around Marlon Brando like that.
Yeah. Now, all of these people obviously are directors because of Godard and Truffaut. But
yeah, guys, gotta bring Godard back in there. Yeah, right. Because you know what, George Lucas never saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, had no influence whatsoever. when Spielberg's making Close Encounters, he was like, I've never seen a sci-fi movie before. Nothing's influencing me on this one.
Yeah. So I think we go Coppola. Do you have a second?
Yeah, I second Coppola.
No, I mean, do you have a second person in mind? Like, we're giving it to Coppola, but anyone that you think comes behind? For me, it's Robert Altman.
Yeah, I would say like Scorsese seems like the second pick, but I honestly agree. I think Altman would be my number 2, just because those are
so many.
4 great movies. Also,
MASH, McCabe and Mr. Miller, Long Goodbye, Nashville, and Three Women.
Yeah.
All awesome. Yeah.
If it wasn't Coppola, it would be Altman. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Should we have picked a number 2 for all these decades?
You know, for a lot of these, I have like in parentheses.
Good. Okay.
So like,
I'm glad you have like a close second.
I don't for the 20s and 30s, but for the 40s, Hitchcock was the close second.
Okay.
The 50s, Kurosawa.
Mhm.
The 60s, Godard. The 70s, Altman.
Altman. I agree completely. Okay. That was the easiest one yet.
Whoo.
This one I think is going to be a little harder.
Okay.
Okay. 1980s. Let's talk about, well, I don't want to talk about the returners yet. Let's talk about some new names that haven't come in yet. Terry Gilliam. In the 80s, he gave us Brazil, Time Bandits, Meaning of Life, and Baron Munchausen. I mean, if you want to talk about like a director with a vision, with a specific eye, Terry Gilliam is that guy.
I agree.
Yeah. James Cameron broke
Do you
out.
know I wrote a research paper on Terry Gilliam?
No, I did not know that. No.
In one of my film classes. I had to watch Brazil 3 times in a week for the purpose of that paper. Anyways, so yeah.
I did something similar with 12 Monkeys. I wrote a paper on it and watched it so many times.
Okay.
It was great.
Nice.
All right. James Cameron. 80s was a big decade for him. The Terminator, Aliens, The Abyss, and Piranha 2.
Yeah.
Rob Reiner. You know, not a name that comes up a lot, but in the 80s, he had The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, This Is Spinal Tap, and The Sure Thing, which I have not seen.
That's an incredible
That's
list.
an incredible run. Yeah, for sure. I threw this name out here because I associate the 80s with this director, but we can cut him. John Carpenter.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What's he putting out?
The Thing, They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, and Escape from New York. But
Sure.
he's
yeah.
definitely more like B action movies.
Yeah, they're in this, like, they kind of define the 80s a little bit, but I don't think he's the best director of the 80s.
Oh, that's totally fine. I just want to throw the name out there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about another director that defines the 80s? John Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, The Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, Weird Science, Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
That's that's huge. That's like... all right, Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, man. Yes.
Back to the Future 1 and 2, Romancing the Stone, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
All right. Hayao Miyazaki.
Ooh, what was he putting on in the 80s?
My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Those are great movies.
That's a great run. Kiki's is probably my least favorite of those 4, but that's because it felt more like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here are the big names and the re-returners. You got Kubrick. He's got The Shining and Full Metal Jacket. Only 2 though, but 2 big ones.
Yep.
Scorsese's back with Raging Bull, King of Comedy, After Hours, Last Temptation of Christ, Color of Money, and directed Michael Jackson's Bad music video.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the big name of the 80s, Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, The Last Crusade. So he's got all 3 Indiana Jones movies. And then he did E.T., The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, and Always. Also, like I can't believe he did 7 movies in the 80s. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's pretty wild, actually.
Yeah. All right. So who can we cut?
Can you suggest some people? And let's talk about them. Who do you think is our low hanging fruit?
Well, Carpenter we cut already.
Yeah.
John Hughes.
It's John Hughes. Those movies define the decade.
Mhm.
For sure. Is he the best director of the decade? I don't think so.
Or is he another Billy Wilder where he's known for writing them almost more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam.
Oh yeah, Terry Gilliam, huh? Give me those movies again. We got Brazil.
Brazil, Time Bandits, Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, and The Baron Munchausen.
Yeah, those are very interesting films. He's a very interesting director, and this is his heyday.
Yep.
For sure. I don't think he's going to win Best Director, though.
Okay, that's fine. James Cameron.
See, this one's more compelling, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at Terminator, and that's like a sci-fi action movie shot like a horror film.
Yeah.
Aliens is another, like, let's take a horror concept, but make it sci-fi action. The Abyss, let's take scuba diving, make it sci-fi action. And then I haven't seen Piranha 2, so but can't ignore that's on there.
I think these are all very interesting. I don't think I'm going to give him Best Director, though.
But I mean, James Cameron's definitely a director, like capital D director. Yep.
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
All right, so we'll cut him. Rob Reiner.
That's tough.
That's tough. I mean, Princess Bride. Okay, let's talk about Princess Bride. That's an adaptation, right?
Of a book.
Of a book, yep. Spinal Tap. Mockumentary.
When Harry Met Sally.
Yep. Rom-com.
Genre-defining rom-com.
Yep. Stand By Me. I mean, it's an incredible coming-of-age movie.
Yep.
Yeah. All great movies. Does Rob Reiner have a specific director vision?
I find it interesting that they're all slightly different genres.
Yeah.
I think that is relevant to our discussion.
Mm-hmm. We can keep him on there.
I'm not ready to get rid of him yet.
Okay, let's keep him
I think
there.
he could be an interesting dark horse.
Okay. Robert Zemeckis. First two Back to the Future movies, Roger Rabbit and Romancing the Stone.
See, that's super interesting to me.
Yeah. That. When I think about. When you and I watched Back to the Future 2 last time we hung out.
Yeah.
And there were multiple times we like rewatched scenes for how they were shot, how they're edited together.
Yeah. Yeah. Zemeckis that's a big decade for him.
Yep.
Is that his best decade?
He pops up in the 90s again.
With like Forrest Gump and Contact.
Yep.
And Back to the Future 3, which I like.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Man, this is getting tough. Miyazaki.
I'm not going to go for him, but Woody Allen, I just want to mention.
Okay.
Has Crimes and Misdemeanors, Hannah and Her Sisters, Purple Rose of Cairo. Have you seen that?
No.
That one's good. Broadway Danny Rose, Zelig. Have you seen Zelig?
No.
That one's good too. That's like all like newsreel footage, like fake newsreel footage.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
the only 80s I saw was Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we've kept Zemeckis, we've kept Reiner, we've kept Cameron. We cut.
Yeah. We have Kubrick and Spielberg. Is there anyone else we're missing?
Scorsese and Miyazaki.
I think we can cut Miyazaki.
Really?
I don't know. Give me the movies again.
My Neighbor Totoro. Kiki's Delivery Service. Yeah. It's like John Turturro, My Neighbor Totoro. All right. Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, and Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, I like all of those films.
I like all those movies. He's another writer-director.
For sure. And an auteur. For sure.
And like when you talk about animation, like I think animation direction is interesting to me because you have the director who's like kind of composing these scenes, but then you have the animators who are actually bringing it to life. It's a different interplay, I think, between directors and the talents. When
I
you're talking
agree, but I
animation.
think you almost have more control as a director.
As a director, okay.
That's
you can
kind of how
say-
I see it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I
right.
still think we should cut him. I think his best stuff is ahead of him.
Okay.
But if you want to pull for him, feel free.
No, I think if you're not feeling him, I think we can cut him. Okay. All right. Scorsese, Raging Bull, King of Comedy, After Hours, Last Temptation of Christ, Color of Money. Michael Jackson's Bad.
Those are huge. I
huge.
didn't care for Raging Bull. I need to rewatch it.
Okay.
I didn't care for it that much.
It's not my favorite of these. I would say King of Comedy and Last Temptation of Christ are probably my two favorites.
Yeah, those are interesting films. I don't know if he's the best director of this decade for me. What do you think?
I don't know if the 80s is his best decade either.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with cutting him.
Okay.
Kubrick only gave us 2, The Shining and Full Metal Jacket.
I mean, those are both amazing films.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is a stronger decade than the 70s.
The 60s.
The 70s.
Stronger than Barry Lyndon and Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's only half the movies as the 60s, but I like both of these movies as much, if not better, than the ones from the 60s.
Okay. I guess here's the $65,000 question. Are any of these directors better
Why'd you
than
pick 65,000?
The Pyramid?
Isn't it? It's 65,000 is the Pyramid?
It's constantly changing. So I find it very interesting. No, you can find out like what generation people grew up in based on when to say, here's the $100,000 question, here's the $10,000 question, because like that's based on their knowledge of the pyramid. Are you looking up if $65,000 was the actual pyramid price at one point?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was not. It's the $64,000 question.
Oh, is it 64? My bad. what year is $64,000 pyramid?
65,000. You must have born what, July 83?
Yes.
The $64,000 question aired from 1955 to 1958.
Okay. So maybe my parents used that term because like they were kids in the
They
50s.
must.
So that must be
Now
it,
I'm very curious to find out if your parents say 64 or 65. It'd be awesome if like just collectively they have always said the wrong date and so you say it because they did.
That could be. Oh,
You need to ask.
Remind me. I thought of I had like a Mandela effect thing the other day, and I meant to tell you about it, but now I completely forgot me. I'll think about it some other day. Okay.
I want to hear it.
I can't think of it right now.
All right.
I just know that I thought of a Mandela effect thing. Like, oh, did you know that?
Okay, I think a director that can make The Shining and Full Metal Jacket in the same decade is absolutely in this conversation.
Okay. So here is the $64,000 question. Are any of these directors better than Steven Spielberg in the 80s, who gave us all 3 Indiana Jones as well as E.T.? And then Empire of the Sun, Color Purple, and Always.
See, I like Always.
Mm-hmm.
I like Empire of the Sun. I like The Color Purple. He doesn't miss in this decade.
Does not miss in this decade.
That's interesting. He did make The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, well, he's one of 4 on Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's hard for me to look at the 80s and not give this to Spielberg, both because of the movies he made and because of how these movies are associated with the 80s. Like, obviously, John Hughes movies are associated with the 80s. But, like, Indiana Jones and E.T., those are 2 huge cultural impacts on that decade.
I agree, but I know you're not looking forward, but are you telling me we're not going to pick him for the 90s?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, the 90s for Spielberg, man.
I know, we're not looking forward.
I don't know why we're not doing that.
Because that's not, we're doing the best director of each decade. We're not doing the best director. There's no consolation. There's no, well, you didn't get this decade, so you get that decade instead. We're looking at the decade. I want you to look at just the 80s. I want you to compare 80s Spielberg to 80s Kubrick to 80s Scorsese, etc.
Okay, I will compare these films according to your terms.
Are we comparing Spielberg to Kubrick? Are those our big
not
two
necessarily?
right now?
Here's what I'm gonna do first.
Okay.
Zemeckis.
Yep.
Back to the Future 1 and 2 plus Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Do I think that is a better directorial job than what Spielberg's giving me? I'm going to say no.
Okay.
So I'm going to cut Zemeckis. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay cutting Zemeckis.
Rob Reiner. I think I love Princess Bride. I love Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap is so much, I think, improv, and the actors are bringing so much to it. Princess Bride, that writing by William Golding is amazing. That's a big part of it. The chemistry in Harry Met Sally between the two leads, I think, is a huge part of it. So I think I'm not going to go Rob Reiner.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I'm okay cutting Rob Reiner. But he definitely was like a dark horse of like, oh, this name is not on my short list, but here it is.
Yeah. For me, we're looking at the Indiana Jones movies
plus E.T.
Versus Full Metal Jacket and The Shining. I kind of lean towards Full Metal Jacket and The Shining.
I am excited about the prospect of giving Kubrick 2 decades.
Well, I think it's not a gimme. I think if he gets it, he would deserve it. Now, he's only made 2 films.
Yeah, but it's The Shining of Full Metal Jacket, like a genre-defying horror movie, and the last great Vietnam War movie? Question mark.
So yeah, I mean, I gave it 5 stars, right? Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, I think Full Metal Jacket is a weak middle act. It's 4.5 stars, just compared to the first and third acts.
Yeah. So this is what's hard is Spielberg has 8 films in the 80s, all of which I like.
Yeah.
Some of which I love. And Kubrick has 2.
Okay. So is The Shining in Full Metal Jacket better than the Indiana Jones oeuvre and E.T.?
I enjoy the Indiana Jones movies better than Full Metal Jacket and The Shining. I would rather watch an Indiana Jones film than Full Metal Jacket or The Shining. So that I know.
Okay.
I think that Full Metal Jacket and The Shining are better directed films than the Indiana Jones films.
And E.T.
And E.T. E.T.'s fine. E.T.'s great.
Fine.
No.
No, E.T. is not fine.
Wait, you're saying it's not fine? No, E.T. E.T.'s great.
E.T. is amazing. E.T. was also a huge movie. Like, E.T. was making buckets of money. Not that that's one of the measures in the 80s, but...
I totally agree.
Yeah.
This is a tough one for me. I'm not going to be unhappy with either of these. Honestly, I really think we're going to have double director at some point. It's either going to be Kubrick now or Spielberg later.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep. He only did 2 in the 80s, but they are 2 huge films of the 80s. And they are 2 completely different genres.
And from a direction standpoint, they're incredible.
Yep.
I kind of want to go Kubrick on this.
Let's do it. Let's go Kubrick.
I don't know how I feel about this because it's 8 versus 2, but
you give Spielberg those parentheses though.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. The 70s was easier than I thought. I thought 70s would be hard. I knew 80s was going to be tough. I did not think 80s was going to go Kubrick. I thought it was going to come down to like Spielberg or Cameron or Zemeckis or something, or Miyazaki.
Yeah, that was rough, man.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, it only gets easier with the 90s.
At least we can forget about Stanley Kubrick from now on.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I mean he did. Yeah. No, he's done. He's got one. He's got one in the 90s, but he's not. He's on my list.
Yeah. He's done to us.
Do you want the returning names or the new names?
I want all the names, man.
Well, which ones do you want first? The returners or the newbies?
The returners.
Okay. So here's our returners. Martin Scorsese, Goodfellas, right? That's probably one of his best movies, if not the best movie. Casino, Goodfellas lights is a little in the same genre, but still a good movie. Cape Fear, so far all De Niro. Age of Innocence, Bringing Out the Dead with old crazy guy over there. What's his name? Nicolas Cage.
Yep.
And then Kundun, about the Dalai Lama, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think Kundun's going to win this, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Steven Spielberg. May have heard of him.
Yeah.
He did Hook,
Great film.
Amistad,
Yeah, great film.
The Lost World, Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
The Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep. Zemeckis is back. He's given us Forrest Gump. He's given us Back to the Future 3.
And Contact.
Given us Contact. Also gave us Death Becomes Her with Meryl Streep. Haven't seen it, but
Oh, you never saw that movie?
I've never seen it. Famous
Oh,
poster, though.
Hated it so much.
You did?
Oh, I hated it.
Okay. And then James Cameron is also back. He only did 3 movies, but they're Terminator 2, Titanic, and True Lies.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, here are our newbies. Michael Mann gave us Heat, The Insider, and Last of the Mohicans.
Yep.
David Fincher, Fight Club, Seven, The Game, and Alien 3.
Yeah, that's a big contender, I think.
Do you know who did not come up in the 80s?
Who?
Ridley Scott.
Oh, that's interesting.
He's got Blade Runner. But what else was he doing in the 80s that's of note?
He was just putzing around.
Because, he did like Alien 79. If he'd done Alien and Blade Runner in the same decade,
Yeah,
maybe.
Then we'd have to watch out for him.
But the fact that they got split, I think kind of did him a disservice there.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul Thomas Anderson, PTA. He pops up in the 90s. Boogie Nights, Magnolia, and Hard 8.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'm going to give it to him this decade.
Okay, that's fine. Coen
I don't
Brothers.
think that's enough to win.
Yeah, but I think it's notable that he's popping up on our list now.
Yeah.
Coen Brothers, they're popping up. Fargo, Big Lebowski, Hudsucker Proxy, Miller's Crossing, and Barton Fink.
Yep.
That's a pretty strong. I know Fargo's not your favorite, but I think you recognize.
I'm aware.
You're aware. Yep. Richard Linklater, Before Sunrise, Slacker, and Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yep.
I don't think I'm going to give it to him, though. But
And I think the spoiler is Quentin Tarantino.
yeah, that's the tough one.
Pulp
That's
Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there okay, so PTA we're cutting.
Sadly, because I love Magnolia. I mean,
those are good movies.
Yeah.
Linklater we're cutting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of think it's between 4 right now.
Who are the 4 that you have?
I think Spielberg, Tarantino, Fincher, and Coen Brothers.
No Cameron.
Give me his movies again.
Terminator 2, Titanic, and True Lies.
I mean, is Titanic the best directed movie of all these movies we're talking about? It was a huge impact, right?
Like one of the most famous directed movies.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cheesy.
It's a little cheesy. Have you watched Titanic since you were like in 8th grade?
I have not.
Okay, me neither. And I really think, okay, you and I watched Titanic together in 8th grade. I think you and I need to rewatch Titanic together.
Okay, deal.
Just just to like recalibrate ourselves on Titanic, because
if Kyle wants that, Kyle can have that.
my opinion of Titanic is like what 13-year-old Kyle thinks of it.
Yeah.
So.
Did we see it once or twice?
I saw it twice in the theater. Once with my parents, once with you. I don't know if you saw it more than once in the theater.
I probably saw it twice. No one saw it once.
No one saw it once. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw it, one of the girl from our class, when I saw it with my parents, a girl from my class was sitting next to me, like just coincidentally, because this is like when you just sat down in like your seats, you just chose a spot. So like we chose that row, we sat down, and then like I look, and her name was Leanne something. I don't remember what her last name was.
Worrell?
She had red hair. You would probably recognize her from 8th grade. Okay. Anyway, so like I sat down, and then like I look, and then she looks at me, and we're like, oh God.
That's awesome.
Didn't acknowledge each other, and then for like 3 hours had to sit next to this classmate. And
that's hilarious. That's really funny.
Anyway, okay, all right. So,
do you agree with those 4?
Just tell me the 4 again. I got on a little
Spielberg, Tarantino, Fincher, and Coen Brothers.
Tarantino. Okay, so we're cutting Zemeckis. We're cutting Scorsese.
I think so, unless you want to pull for them.
Scorsese is a little inconsistent. I just don't know Age of Innocence or Bringing Out the Dead. I haven't seen enough. I guess I've seen 4 out of the 6.
Sure.
But
do you suspect that Bringing Out the Dead is going to push it over for you?
I don't think Bring Out Dead or Age of Innocence is going to push it over. If I'm going like 1-to-1 here, no. Okay, we can cut Scorsese. Bye. All right, let's talk Coen Brothers.
Okay.
All right, so Fargo. Dark comedy, crime movie.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is the movie that broke them onto the scene.
Sure,
This
but
is the
they were
breakout
making good movies before it. I mean, Hudsucker Proxy is awesome. Barton Fink is awesome.
Miller's Crossing is awesome.
Yeah, Raising Arizona exists.
Yeah. Blood Simple. I'm just saying, like, Fargo was their breakout movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like Barton Fink, if you want to talk about like things that are being directed, like what's going on the screen, you got like that scene of John Goodman walking down a burning hallway with a shotgun shouting at John Turturro. That is right. I mean, that is like a sear in your mind scene right there. Miller's Crossing is a great like gangster movie with that Coen Brothers look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Big Lebowski. I mean, like if Fargo didn't break him out for you, Big Lebowski is the one that did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're strong contenders.
They're definitely like a directorial force to be reckoned with. For me, I think Tarantino hit a lot harder in the 90s.
Yeah, I can cut Fincher.
Oh, you got Fincher.
So Fight
We're
Club.
talking about Coen Brothers.
I know. Well, but you're talking about Tarantino. Okay, let's go back to Coen Brothers.
What I was saying is, if I compare the Coen Brothers to Tarantino,
yes,
I think they hit on similar kind of vibes in a sense, but Tarantino had way more impact.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay, so let's cut Coen Brothers.
Are you cool with that?
I'm cool with that. Let's compare Tarantino to Fincher.
Sure. Okay, so Fincher starts with Alien 3, which you don't like. No one likes, but I love. I think that's great.
You
movie.
like Alien 3. I respect that.
Then he has 7, The Game, and Fight Club, which are very interesting films.
Yeah, I would say he's a little inconsistent. Like, I think The Game is not, it's interesting. I don't think it's quite at Fight Club 7 level.
I agree. And it's the writing more that's interesting.
Yeah. It feels weird that Fight Club's a 90s movie just because it was like late 90s.
Yeah.
And so much of it, like, I associate Fight Club with college, which is 2000s for me, but it's definitely a 90s movie. Not going to disagree with that.
It's a pre-9/11 movie.
Yeah. But, well, yeah, especially that ending. If you take Fincher to Tarantino 1-to-1, I still think, I mean, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs are 2 incredible movies. And then Jackie Brown, overlooked, I think, but is another great movie.
See, I haven't seen it. It's the one I haven't seen.
I would say, I mean, like it makes you a Tarantino completionist, which is pretty easy right there. Yeah. And it's a little different. Like it's got his kind of like rat-a-tats, crime noir thing going on, but not as to what I remember, not so much of like the violence of Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction or those movies.
All right, so let's kill it.
Okay.
Let's kill Fincher.
All right. Tarantino versus Spielberg.
Yeah.
New Hollywood versus new Hollywood. Let's say New Hollywood versus Indie Hollywood.
Yeah, Indie Hollywood.
Okay.
I will say, I feel like a lot of people would give this to Tarantino.
I think he is he's like the 90s guy. Like these are very 90s movies.
Agreed. But I just have to say, of all of the Spielberg movies, there's 6 of them. I like all of these films, but Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan, all 3 of those are, I think, masterpieces, like incredible accomplishments. They're all of vastly different genres. Like they have completely different vibes to them. And I think all of them are masterpieces. And then the rest I just really enjoy. I think, like, if you go tat for tat, like, what do you think is a better accomplishment? Is it Reservoir Dogs or is it Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it Jurassic Park or is it Pulp Fiction? Like for me, it's Jurassic Park and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I agree that this is Spielberg's decade. 2 of those movies are top 10 for me, Jurassic Park and Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, right there, top 10. Schindler's List, it's hard to rank that movie. Like, I don't even, we joke about it. Like, where does that show up on a top any list? Because it's how do you rank a movie about the Holocaust?
Yeah. Now I will say, and some of these have aged so well. Like Saving Private Ryan,
Mhm.
Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List have aged really well. Even Hook has aged well, surprisingly. Whereas like Pulp Fiction, it's maybe because it had so much influence. I think Pulp Fiction feels a little bit passe now.
Uh, hmm. Yeah, I think Reservoir Dogs holds up better than Pulp Fiction.
I agree.
Just because maybe it's because Pulp Fiction has been built upon so much, like the idea of multiple storylines, jumping around in time, the dialogue. I don't think it's Pulp Fiction's fault, but its success has diminished its impact.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
All right, let's go Spielberg.
Okay.
How are we are doing great here.
Well, we still have 2 more decades to go.
I know we might get this done in under 3 hours.
Oh, we definitely will.
All right. The 2000s. I've got 9 and 3 of them are returners.
Okay.
All right, so here are returners. Martin Scorsese, he pops up again. He's going to keep popping up here.
That guy. That guy.
Aviator, Gangs in New York, The Departed. I would have to give maybe Martin Scorsese our Lifetime Achievement Award on this list just for popping up in so many decades.
Good for him.
Yeah. Fincher, he's back. Stronger than ever with Zodiac and Benjamin Button in Panic Room.
Yeah.
Actually, those are not my favorite Fincher movies, so maybe
They're
not
not.
stronger than ever. No. However, Tarantino's also back, stronger than ever, with Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and Death Proof, which is the only Tarantino I have not seen.
Okay.
You want some of the new names?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me some new names.
Here is a new old name, Ridley Scott.
Oh, this was a good time for him, right?
Yeah, well, so Gladiator. Hannibal, a little cheesy, but still a good movie, I think. American Gangster with Denzel, Black Hawk Down, Kingdom of Heaven, Body of Lies, A Good Year. He put out 8 movies. 8 movies in the 2000s. Let's see. Oh, Darren Aronofsky. Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and The Fountain. And I love The Fountain.
Fountain's so good. And that's definitely, those are director movies.
For sure. Yep. You also have Ang Lee, Brokeback Mountain, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Lust and Caution, and Hulk. We haven't really talked about superhero movies yet. This is the first time a superhero movie has popped up
That's
on
true.
any of our lists. Yeah.
That's true.
Alfonso Cuarón, Itubama Tambien, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and then Children of Men, obviously. Can't forget that movie.
Yeah.
All right. Here is big name number 1, I think, that's new to us. Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson gave us the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to talk about 2000s. Also did King Kong and The Lovely Bones.
Which I haven't seen The Lovely Bones. And King Kong was interesting, but it's not like it's well thought of.
No, it was a vanity project.
Yeah.
And here's the other big name of the 2000s, Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
Started with Memento and ended it with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Throw in some Insomnia, Batman Begins, and The Prestige while you're at it.
Yeah.
All right. So those are my 9. Anyone you want to add to that?
Did you say Paul Thomas Anderson?
I did not say PTA for this decade. Tell me, I think for me, this is not the strongest decade, but talk about it.
So there's only 2 films.
Okay.
It's Punch Drunk Love and There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood, masterpiece. Punch Drunk Love, good.
Yeah. So for me, both of those are 5-star movies.
Yeah.
Which is why I mention it.
I don't think I could give PTA the award over some of these other people just because I don't feel as strong about Punch Drunk Love as you do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Um,
who do you want to cut? We got Scorsese, Fincher, Tarantino, Scott, Nolan, Jackson, Aronofsky, Lee, and Cuarón. Anyone who you see as an obvious cut?
give me some suggestions and let's zero down that way.
Let's start with Fincher. Is Zodiac, Benjamin Button, Panic Room his strongest decade?
No,
No. Okay.
it's not.
I mean, let's go Ang Lee, Brokeback, Crouching Tiger, Lust, Caution, and Hulk.
I like how many different genres he's tackling,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's strong enough to beat some of the other people on the list.
Okay. Cuarón, Y Tu Mamá También, Children of Men, Harry Potter.
And my favorite short from Paris Je T'aime.
Oh yeah, I've never seen Paris Je T'aime, but he popped up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Children of Men. That's a top 10 for me.
Yep. Same here.
Children of Men is incredible. Y Tu Mamá También is interesting. Prisoner of Azkaban is generally regarded as maybe the best Harry Potter film.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm going to give it to him based on just that, though.
Okay. Ridley Scott.
See, Ridley Scott, that's interesting. I don't think I'm going to give it to him. You know, even though he's got Gladiator and Black Hawk Down, he's got some pretty minor films, I think.
Yeah, like Body of Lies is a forgettable Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
Yeah.
Matchstick Men. Yeah. Okay.
Can I add someone to the list real quick before we like fully commit
Yeah, please.
to a final list? I don't think. Did you mention the Coen Brothers again?
I did not. So when I was making this list, I think this list came out with like 14 people, and I tried to pare it down to 10.
That makes sense.
So if you want to throw someone out there, please do. Just because I don't want to talk about like 15 directors for every single decade. Yeah.
I'm gonna mention 2 more directors.
Okay, please.
Just we can shoot them down immediately if we want. I'm totally fine with that. Okay.
Okay.
First, the Coen Brothers. They've got A Serious Man, Burn After Reading, No Country for Old Men,
Mm-hmm.
and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
So for me, No Country for Old Men is an incredible movie, and the rest of those are good.
I don't necessarily care
Yeah.
about the Coen
Okay.
Brothers at this era.
I'm okay cutting them.
Okay. What do you think about Soderbergh?
Ooh, Soderbergh was on my short list. I did cut him, but bring him back up.
Aaron Brockovich,
Mhm.
2000. The same year, Traffic.
Yep.
The next year, Ocean's 11.
Yep.
Then Full Frontal, which I don't think you've seen, but is
No.
really good. Then 2004, Ocean's 12.
Okay.
The Good German, Ocean's 13. The Informant. So basically, we're talking about the Ocean's movies, Aaron
Yeah.
Brockovich, and Traffic.
So I think those movies define the 2000s for sure. I don't know if he's the better director than some of these other names on our list already.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye, Steven.
All right. So right now we've got Scorsese, Tarantino, Nolan, Jackson, Aronofsky. Any of those that you feel strongly about, like, they're not quite.
You
there
didn't
for
mention
me.
Peter Jackson again. You did.
I did
You
mention
said
Peter
Peter
Jackson.
Jackson. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Is Peter Jackson your number 5 of these 5?
He's not my number 5, but he's
Okay.
not my number 1.
And it's because he's got obviously Lord of the Rings. If he had just done Lord of the Rings, would he be in a different spot than if he also had done King Kong? Is King Kong souring the milk here?
It sours it a little bit. I
Okay.
think Lord of the Rings are incredible accomplishments.
Yep.
So I kind of want to just compare everyone to Peter Jackson and see how they do.
Okay, let's do that. Let's compare Darren Aronofsky to Peter Jackson.
Okay.
So Aronofsky's giving us Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and The Fountain, which we're going to compare to Lord of the Rings.
All of those are extremely interestingly directed films.
And they're all different.
Yeah.
Like they each have a different subject and a different look to them. Like you think about Requiem for a Dream and like those montages of people doing heroin.
Yeah.
Versus The Fountain, which has like this methodical, thoughtful filmography process to it.
And a wild last 30 minutes.
Well, yeah. And for The Wrestler, which is like watching a person in chaos just interacting with the world.
I know. Requiem for a Dream is a top 20 movie for me. I didn't care for The Wrestler that much.
Okay. So I wonder if The Wrestler people remember more for Mickey Rourke than they do for Aronofsky.
I think that they do.
Yeah. Whereas Requiem for a Dream and The Fountain are clearly Aronofsky films.
Yeah, for sure. And huge accomplishments, I think.
So does Aronofsky beat Jackson for you?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No. What about you?
No. If I'm going director to director, no.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can cut Aronofsky.
Okay. And you cut Paul Thomas Anderson. I think if I made this list, he'd probably be my guy for
He
this
would be your
decade.
guy. I
think so.
I get it. Yeah. I just don't think if it was if this is like a Kubrick situation where it's only 2 movies, but we both agree that they're amazing.
Yeah.
I could do it, but it's for me, it's Punch Drunk Love doesn't do enough to overcome some of the other
Magnolia
people.
came out in 99. If it came out in 2000, would you go PTA?
I think I would give PTA more consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's compare.
So who do we
Jackson?
got? Nolan, Tarantino, and Jackson, right?
Yeah. Let's compare Jackson or Scorsese. Is
Scorsese.
cut Aviator, Gangs of New York, The Departed?
I don't think that's enough to get this for me.
Okay.
Is it enough for you?
Not quite. No.
Yeah.
No. We can cut them. All right. Let's compare Jackson to Tarantino. Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill 1 and 2, and then Death Proof, which I have not seen.
So Death Proof I've seen, but I don't think it helps him.
Okay.
In this situation. Inglourious is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Kill Bill is super interesting. But is that all he has? He's got Inglourious and Kill Bills? I mean, that's all that are really speaking for him here?
Yeah, but I mean, Peter Jackson's got Lord of the Rings and King Kong. Like,
yeah, that's true. So Lord of the Rings, I really consider it like one thing.
Okay.
I think Inglourious and Lord of the Rings are both amazing, right? Then you got Kill Bill, which Kill Bill I think is super impressive. I don't know if I enjoy watching Kill Bill.
I mean, with Inglourious, Kill Bill and Inglourious have different directorial looks to them. Where Kill Bill almost has like a comic book sensibility to it in its eccentric violence and how it introduces characters. Is definitely being more influenced by Asian cinema.
Right.
Where Inglourious still has like Tarantino's level of violence, but he's doing more of like a not quite traditional war film, but there's not as much pizzazz to Inglourious as there is to Kill Bill 1 and 2.
For me, the Kill Bill movies, while again it's impressive, it's like an homage to a whole bunch of things that I'm not familiar with.
Fair.
So he's familiar with them, and some people are familiar with them, but for me, it's just reference after reference, and you can tell that they're references, right?
Yeah.
To things that I don't know. So it's a little exhausting.
So it sounds like I can't sell you on Tarantino, and that's okay. This is a consensus thing.
Do you want to sell me on Tarantino?
Well, I'm trying. I'm trying, but I also feel like you don't like what Kill Bill is giving as a director is not something you like, and that's okay.
Well, I think Inglourious is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But if that wasn't there, I wouldn't even consider Tarantino.
Okay, so I would consider Tarantino if Inglourious wasn't there, just because I like Kill Bill 1 and 2 probably more than you do. But if Inglourious is the make it or break it, and the rest of them don't do it, versus Lord of the Rings, then I think we should cut Tarantino.
I am very curious what you think about Nolan.
I think so. When I was making this short list, in my mind, Nolan and Jackson were the top 2, but I did not decide who was number 1.
Sure.
So Nolan, he did The Dark Knight, right? That's the movie that we chose as the best movie of the 2000s. That's for a lot of people their favorite movie of the 2000s, if not ever.
Yeah.
He also gave us Batman Begins, which is a really good Batman movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's made better by The Dark Knight.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. I think you can watch Batman Begins knowing what happens with Dark Knight and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Memento, a lot of people's favorite Nolan. If it's not Dark Knight, it's Memento. Insomnia, I don't think it's anyone's favorite Nolan, but it's not a bad movie.
Right. It's not great though.
And then The Prestige. And for me, Nolan jumps between Dark Knight and Prestige, which is my favorite. I can't decide.
For me, The Dark Knight, The Prestige, and Memento, those are 3 awesome films.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to look at Nolan versus Jackson as a whole. Okay?
Yeah.
What is Nolan's weakest movie? Insomnia?
Insomnia.
Okay. What is Jackson's weakest movie? King
The
Kong?
Lovely Bones? King
the
Kong, maybe,
Lonely
yeah.
Bones? Okay.
He also did The Frighteners.
The Frighteners. Yep. In the 2000s or is that 90s?
Oh, that's 90s, sorry.
Okay.
That's 90s.
Yeah. So I think Nolan and Jackson are as strong as each other. Like if you take the 3 Lord of the Rings movies, you compare it to Dark Knight, Prestige, Memento, I think they cancel each other out, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking quality.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. We're talking director vision.
Yeah.
You've got Jackson, who directed 3 movies the same way, but had a clear vision through all 3 of those movies. And it's an accomplishment what he pulled off with the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
And he did them all at the same time.
Yep.
And just the boondoggle to create that, like the massive effort, right? I mean, he could probably do a good job as president of the United States after all he can like handle at one time, right?
Yeah, you're right. He is a master project manager.
Exactly. Yes, for sure. And that's a big part of, he's probably a better producer than a director, maybe.
Well, so much, he was creating so much of what was on that screen. Like almost like what Lucas was doing with Star Wars, how Lucas had his hand in everything to make Star Wars happen. Jackson had his hand in everything to make Lord of the Rings happen.
Yeah.
Right. So he just didn't show up and, it was all there for him. He was inventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus Nolan, I don't think he's inventing anything, but.
Well, Memento.
Okay. True. But a Nolan movie. Like Nolan has a look. He has a style. And when you're watching a Nolan film.
You know it from the tone more than anything.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm leaning Nolan, honestly.
I'm leaning Nolan. I feel like it's kind of the obvious. Like, I feel like Nolan is the Tarantino of the 2000s. He's
Sure.
the hot new guy.
Yeah.
But I think he's stronger than these other guys.
Yeah. I think Peter Jackson is a one-trick pony, and the pony is a thoroughbred, but it's a one-trick pony. Nolan has given us a couple different things that are all interesting.
Yeah. If we're gonna keep that metaphor going, Jackson won the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And Nolan is just giving us horse after horse after horse every year.
Yeah, you're going to make more money betting on Nolan because he's got 6 movies.
Yeah. Okay, let's go Nolan.
All right.
Who knew?
Okay, this is our last decade.
That makes me kind of sad.
This has been a lot of fun. This is always a lot of fun.
I always enjoy these, and I'm looking forward to what we do next for these. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this will be interesting.
All right. The 2000s. I've got 5. Half of them are returners, and half of them are new.
Okay, well, let's hear who you have.
All right, so making his 5th and final appearance on this list. Yeah, 5th. Martin Scorsese. Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, The Irishman, Hugo, and Silence.
Okay.
David Fincher making his 3rd appearance and probably his next strongest decade. Gone Girl, Social Network, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Okay.
PTA is back. Phantom Thread, The Master, and Inherent Vice. And then Christopher Nolan's also back with Dark Knight Rises, Inception, Interstellar, and Dunkirk. And finally, Darren Aronofsky is back. Black Swan, Mother, and Noah.
Okay.
For our new arrivals, we've got Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu with Birdman, The Revenant, and Beautiful. Damien Chazelle, Whiplash, La La Land, First Man. Ryan Coogler is our first person of color on this entire list. Black Panther, Creed, and Fruitvale Station. Denis Villeneuve, Incendies, Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, and Blade Runner 2049. Yeah. And then I think since this is the 2010s and this is the era of the superhero, we cannot forget the Russo brothers, who gave us Infinity War, Endgame, Captain America Civil War, and Captain America Winter Soldier. Some of the best Marvel movies came from these guys.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this is a lot to take in.
It's a lot of big names. A lot of good
I'm going to
movies.
suggest a couple that I think we could get rid of.
Please.
I think we can get rid of Scorsese.
Yep. I'm okay with that. I think he's got some great movies on here, and he's also got some good movies, but they're not all bangers.
Yeah. I think I'd be comfortable getting rid of Aronofsky.
Ooh. If it wasn't for Noah, which I have not seen.
That's
what
did it for me.
Not well
it's
regarded.
So bad.
Yeah, I would fight harder, but because Black Swan I like a lot, and Mother blew me away. I also know Mother is super divisive movie.
No, I liked Mother quite a bit. I mean, obviously it's a crazy movie, but it's really good. But Noah's really bad.
Okay. That's fair.
So I like a director that takes swings though.
Okay. Well, sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss. All right, so Aronofsky we can cut.
Coogler I also don't think is going to win this.
Have you seen Fruitvale Station?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think of Fruitvale Station?
It was interesting. It was good.
Interesting. All right.
What did you think?
I was amazed by Fruitvale Station. Maybe more so the Michael B. Jordan performance, because I think he played a character that wasn't immediately sympathetic, but you also was like, well, he doesn't deserve this either.
Yeah.
But like he was able to humanize what seemed to be a challenged and troubled person.
Yeah.
Who had a tragic end. And I think that was maybe it's more the Jordan performance is what got me with that movie.
And so he's the common denominator in all three movies.
Yeah, he's in all three of those. You're correct.
And I think he is a superstar. This that man I want to just watch in every movie, right?
Yeah.
He's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if what I liked about Black Panther was the really good villain, the really good protagonist. That's what I liked in Black Panther.
So in Coogler movies, do you like the acting more than do you think the acting stands out more than the directing?
I think it takes preeminence.
And there's definitely something to be said that a good director gets the right performance out.
Yeah, I think that's their primary role.
Okay.
So if you don't want to get rid of it yet, I'm okay with that.
No, I'm okay getting rid of it. I'm really glad we discussed it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was a name that was worthy putting on this list of coming for discussion. I'm glad that he had more discussion like Scorsese.
Yeah, all three of those are really good.
Yeah.
I also want to get rid of Nolan.
You want to get rid of Nolan? Okay.
I do.
So I think Nolan's an interesting one.
Okay.
Because you've got Inception, which how that was able to kind of give you these layers, right? You've got different things happening at the same time, these different dream timelines all kind of cascading together. And I think Nolan did a good job of making that clear. Like we've seen Nolan make complicated movies that aren't as clear, like Tenet. I'm going to say Tenet, is interesting, but does it all come together? No. Is it any more dense than the idea of Inception? Probably not. But like Inception, he made it visually all work together.
Yeah.
Whereas Tenet, I don't think quite all you're able to follow everything that's going on. So just the fact that Inception was able to that you can follow that story, I think is an achievement right there.
Yeah. No, that's my wife's favorite movie. I like Inception a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Dark Knight Rises has some strong points, but it was ultimately a little bit of a disappointment.
It's the weakest of it also followed The Dark Knight.
Yeah. I think Interstellar had a ton of promise and some really high tent poles, but ultimately for me, that was a disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dunkirk, I think it was awesome, super good. But I just don't know if the four of these push him over the line for me. But I'm willing to keep him on if you want to keep him on.
So I think Dunkirk might be my favorite of all four of these.
Yeah, Dunkirk's amazing.
Yeah. Interstellar, I need to watch again. I've only seen Interstellar the one time. And I was so mixed on it.
I was just so bothered that like the fourth dimension was love. And then it just got so, you know.
Spoiler. It was a little neat.
It got so timey-wimey at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And you got, whatever. Matthew McConaughey floating around. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
I also don't think Inarritu is going to take it for me.
Yeah, Birdman's not my favorite. I just think Inarritu was a name worth throwing out on this list too.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you feel about Russo brothers?
I don't think that they take it.
Okay, was that not a silly pick, but
worth mentioning, I guess. But like, I don't credit the directors for the success of those films because that is a machine making those movies.
So it's a machine, but I think we've seen directors that work well within the machine and don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Russo brothers work. Their cog fits in that machine. And there's one reason why they gave us some of the best ones. I think Ryan Coogler figured out how to fit in that machine. I mean, Black Panther, that's another Marvel movie. We didn't really mention that, so if people don't know that.
Yeah.
And he pulled that one off. So I do think there is something to be said about how a director is able to find a voice within that machine. Some of them, they get lost. Like you get like an Eternals where whatever the director's trying to do is not coming through. But then you also get like a Coogler or Russo brothers who are able to find a voice, or maybe Russo brothers are able just to like make a really great contraption out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to fight for Fincher?
Gone Girl is a great movie. Like in that line, I like Gone Girl because it reminds me so much of Rebecca. Not so much in the plot, but in that kind of the same idea of these just crumbling relationships with lies and deceit, and you're kind of just slowly watching the whole thing erode. So I like Gone Girl a lot. I think Social Network I've only seen the one time, but that really blew me away. It's a challenging movie about a challenging person. Girl with Dragon Tattoo was a little much for me. It got a little heavy.
I just didn't like that he just remade a foreign film.
Like 5 years after the first one came out. Yeah. It
just seemed beneath him.
Yeah, it seemed a little unnecessary. Do you want to cut Fincher?
I want to cut Fincher.
Okay.
To my mind, we have 3 people left.
Go for him.
Paul Thomas Anderson, Damien Chazelle, and Denis Villeneuve.
Can I tell you who's my weakest of those 3? Who might be your strongest?
Paul Thomas.
PTA is my weakest of those 3.
Man, he just cannot win with you.
So PTA is interesting because if you like look at my consensus list of directors just by ranking, he is like a top 10 director, but they're all 4-star movies. or like, you're like a 5-star, I can't sell like a 3-star. Like he's always great, but not great enough in my book.
Okay.
The Master did not connect with me. I know a lot of people. I would say of the 3, The Master is my least favorite on this list, and one of my least favorite PTA movies.
Okay.
I also, when I think about The Master, I think about the acting.
Acting's great,
right? I think about Joaquin Phoenix, Amy Adams, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's what I think about when I think about The Master.
Okay.
Yeah. Phantom Thread, a little bit better, but Inherent Vice is probably my favorite of those 3.
Okay. My favorite of those is Phantom Thread.
Okay.
I think Phantom Thread is so interesting as a film. I love PTA, but I don't think he's going to win this list because it's a collaborative list.
Yeah.
I think there's stronger people that we both feel passionately about.
I concur.
Okay, so here's the real question. Does Damien Chazelle's 3 films, Whiplash, La La Land, and First Man, beat Denis Villeneuve's 6 films? Incendies, Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, and Blade Runner 2049.
So I want to bring up one more name,
Okay.
and this
Scorsese?
is no, this is our favorite movie of the 2010s, Room by Lenny Abrahamson.
Okay.
I looked up Lenny Abrahamson, and he did nothing else of note, so he did not make this list. This is the only time where where our favorite movie of a decade, that director is not associated with this list.
Yeah.
Every other decade, we chose a favorite movie from one of those shortlist directors.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yep. And the other interesting thing is Frank Miller, Mad Max Fury Road was our second choice, also didn't make the short list. So I just find it interesting that like when it came to our favorite movies of the 2010s, it did not line up consensus wise with our favorite directors of the 2010s.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Because I know PTA and I know I think Incendies was up there. Anyway, it's a bit of a tangent here, but I just found that interesting. So okay.
That's awesome.
All right. So between Villeneuve and Chazelle, of all those movies, my favorite one is Whiplash.
Yeah. So looking at the list, my favorite of these 8 films or 9 films is probably Whiplash.
Yep. However, if I go like my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, it's all Denis Villeneuve movies.
My second favorite is still probably La La Land, but Enemy and Incendies are very high for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I also can speak highly of Blade. I like Blade Runner 2049 a lot. I like Arrival a lot. Sicario I rewatched recently, and Sicario, like, whoa, that is another movie where that blew me away. And then Prisoners, super tough movie, but
Yeah.
incredibly well made.
I just realized how good Denis Villeneuve is at gut punches.
That really, he really knows how to. I mean, I'm curious to know like what draws him to these challenging movies and these challenging stories.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna say my least favorite movie of all of these, it might be La La Land, and I like that movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's La La Land or maybe Enemy. Enemy just didn't like. I appreciate Enemy for what it is, and it has some great moments. It didn't quite hit with me.
What do you got against spiders?
Everything.
This is tough. I could go either way. Damien Chazelle, I think the Whiplash La La Land combo for me is huge. And I liked First Man. I thought First Man had a really great end.
With First Man, there are multiple scenes where you're inside either like the test capsule they're running, or either the test or the actual launch, and just like the sound, the look, the immersiveness of those moments was incredible.
And then they get to the moon and it's totally still.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, I don't know.
Okay, my gut. Do you have a gut pick right now?
I kind of feel like I know who we're going to end up with.
Is that Denis Villeneuve?
Yeah.
I kind of feel that too. I think if Damien Chazelle had one more movie, if you gave me one more Whiplash or maybe one more First Man, I could probably give it to him.
Okay, so if Whiplash is 100 out of 100, let's say.
Yes.
I don't know if it is, but let's say it's 100 out of 100.
It's a 5-star movie, so we call 100 out of 100, yeah.
What's your favorite of the Denis Villeneuve?
Probably Blade Runner 2049.
And what's that out of 100?
That's a 4.5. So that's, I don't know. That's a 90. Let's say
a 90.
Yeah, 85 maybe. I mean, like Blade Runner and Arrival are way up there. Sicario is not far behind, and Incendies also.
See, for me, Blade Runner had a little bit of stunt casting with Harrison Ford.
It's not stunt casting; it's a sequel. Were you mad that he showed up in Star Wars also, the new ones?
I thought it was silly in both. It's just he seemed too old to reprise either role to me.
Okay,
I think I was still sore after Indiana Jones 4.
It did not feel like stunt casting to me whatsoever. I mean, they're making a sequel here. Okay, I don't
Okay.
buy that argument, but if you have other things against Blade Runner
No, I
2049,
don't.
please make them.
I think if you don't like La La Land, it's going to be really hard to convince you to go Damien Chazelle.
I don't dislike La La Land. I don't think I like La La Land as much as you and James do.
Sure.
That's what I'm like. Of the Damien Chazelle, it's my third favorite movie.
Okay.
I put First Man above it. I think that La La Land is a good movie though, and okay, we're talking about directors though, right?
We are.
I mean, La La Land, it's got that scene where they're dancing in the sky, like they're in the planetarium and they take off.
Yeah.
It's got that great moment where they're on the hills of Hollywood by the lamp and they're doing all their dancing around there. It's got those. Isn't there like a call and response at one point where the camera's like whipping between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The whip pan back and forth
Yeah.
in the jazz club.
Yep.
What about Emma Stone's solo?
I would say her monologue.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
a solo. It's a song. But
Yep.
yeah. And the
Ooh,
scene totally changes and then it goes back into the monologue,
I might
like
be
audition scene.
talking myself into Damien Chazelle right now.
There's just some really great directorial touches, right?
Yeah.
And we even talked about that in First Man. Those
Yep.
directorial choices stuck out to us in a otherwise maybe forgettable movie. It saved it for me in a forgettable movie.
So if I look at Denis Villeneuve and I think what I remember about what I remember about Incendies, that's the story, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well-
And how well he crafted the point of.
Yeah. So I think for me, Denis Villeneuve is able to get a emotional response out of me, right? Whether it be Sicario, Incendies, Prisoners, Arrival, right?
Yeah.
Even Enemy. I mean, Blade Runner 2049 probably have the least emotional reaction to, but
Yeah.
like definitely visually, I think it's a beautiful movie. It's an incredible movie. Man, I don't, Zach, I can't. I'm torn. I am so torn because I like the movies of Denis Villeneuve better overall, but I see the artistry, the craft of Damien Chazelle as a director.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, can I argue against Chazelle with Villeneuve as who's got a better directorial eye to them?
Sure.
And they're so unique.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
really hard to compare the two.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I could go either way for sure. I think if it was just me, I'd probably do Damien Chazelle at this point.
Okay. I came in Villeneuve.
I came in Villeneuve too.
Yeah. The more I thought about La La Land, I think remembering La La Land and thinking back to all those moments, a movie I've seen once, a movie I saw once 6 years ago, and I still remember those specific moments, I think that says something.
Ooh, also remember how it ends where like she has this like flash forward of what their life is like and then that was all in the song?
No, I don't. But
Okay. I say we go Damien Chazelle with a very close Denis Villeneuve behind.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I got no problem with that.
All right.
Damien Chazelle, best director of the 2010s.
He's definitely one to watch.
That
What's he coming out with next?
Babylon. That looks crazy.
That does look crazy.
I'm excited for Babylon.
Looks really crazy. Okay, we made our list.
We did it. Do you want to? Do you have this? Do you want to recap them?
Yeah, for sure. I've kept it up. I don't have backups for the 20s and 30s though.
I don't think we have a backup for the 20s.
Yeah, it's F.W. Murnau.
I mean, Buster Keaton was our second pick, but that's okay.
Yeah. The 1930s, it's Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
1940s, it's Orson Welles, with Hitchcock getting backup.
Mm-hmm.
So if that director cannot perform their duties that decade, then the other director will step in.
Yeah, it's like Miss America.
The 1950s is Hitchcock and Kurosawa is in backup. 1960s, Stanley Kubrick, and I have Godard as backup. 1970s is Francis Ford Coppola with Altman or Spielberg as backup. The 1980s, Stanley Kubrick again with Steven Spielberg as backup.
So happy Kubrick made 2 appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1990s, Steven Spielberg with Quentin Tarantino as backup. 2000s, Christopher Nolan with Peter Jackson as backup. And 2010's Damien Chazelle and Denis Villeneuve is on deck.
Yeah, that sounds exactly what we talked about.
It is. Now, that is a list of a bunch of white men.
Bunch of white dudes.
So if your list at home does not include all white men, I'd love to hear it. I would love to hear it. So feel free to email in the show.
Okay, so I was like, when I was making this list, I was trying to think female directors that could pop up, and it was Claire Denis was one of them, and then Catherine Bigelow, and like those were like the two big ones. I'm like, can I work these on these lists somehow? And I think unfortunately, female directors aren't given as many opportunities. So like Catherine Bigelow's got great movies, but they're spread out over 4 decades.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't get the chance to like make one after another after another.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, you know, Steven Spielberg can make 3 Indiana Jones plus an E.T. and some other movies all in 1 decade. You know, it's just it's
and
a
like,
problem of access.
You know, like Jordan Peele's just getting started. You know, he might win 2020s. Who knows?
Yep.
Greta Gerwig, Spike Lee, maybe.
Yeah, see, Spike Lee is another director who I was like, he's one of my favorite directors, but he's also just he's a little inconsistent decade to decade, and he's kind of spread out too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's our list. That is awesome.
I love doing this. This is always fun. Yeah.
Super fun. If there is a subject that you want Kyle and I to cover on another time where James is not here, we can do this with James too. It just so happens that we haven't.
We can't do of every decade. We can choose a decade.
We'd have it. Well,
not for director, for like best movie or best actor or something like that.
Would that be easier, you think?
We did that once with him already. We did like the best movie of each year from the 2010s.
Nice.
So like, I think with him we can go granular per decade.
Okay. Cool.
But with him, he just doesn't have like the back catalog into the 50s.
Oh, to dip into the. Okay, I got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if there's something you wanted us to cover, email in the show at heyguys@cinereelists.com. Otherwise, we would love if you'd follow us on social media. You can follow James on Twitter, Letterboxd at YoGRB. You can follow me on Twitter, Letterboxd at Shaubin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Peter SKB.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We don't know what we're doing next week, but we'll figure it out. In the meantime, keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.